to make sure that everybody is as safe as possible. So that's why this new tornado warning has been issued for some of those spots. And so looking ahead here, tornado safety rules, a reminder that if you're in these locations, what do we need to be doing? We need to be getting to our safest location. That means, and I'm going to look at this one here, southwest to Kosciuszko here in just a second. A sturdy structure, middle of the lowest floor of a sturdy structure, a small windowless room where we can wrap up with blankets and pillows, put on a helmet to protect ourselves from debris, and stay there until we can give you the all clear. Unfortunately, with where we're at, kind of in a zone where I'm not going to have a great look at this. This is from, that's the radar around Jackson. Let's look at the radar that's in Monroe County, which is, again, looking fairly high. Don't have a good lock. We're not going to have a great lock on the lowest level, unfortunately, on this there. But we do have a camera in Kosciuszko on top of the Breezy News Tower there, looking back toward the south, toward this storm. And I think in particular what we're looking at, I'll see if I can zoom this in. And we're back here on ABC for a moment as a new tornado warning has been issued for Choctaw, Webster, and parts of Montgomery County. It's the same line of storms that we are watching. What I'm going to try to pull up here, I'm going to try to see if we can zoom in on what's going on in that upper corner there as this rotating thunderstorm that has prompted this tornado warning kind of moves into the area. So let me zoom in. It's going to get a little more grainy. But we can at least kind of have a better idea what we're looking at. Obviously, a lot of cloud-to-ground lightning with it, and we're going to be watching very closely this area here. Now, a lot of gray, as you can see there in the background, that's that heavy precipitation. Typically, in this situation, it's going to be on the front end here where we have something that tries to spin up on this, perhaps even kind of the left of the center there where we're watching. So our meteorologist, John DeLucic, you're going to pull that up on Weather 2 and just kind of keep that up to take a look at it, if you can, just so that we have that up just in case something ends up popping up on that. Appreciate the good folks at North Mississippi Storm Chasers and Spotters for giving us this eye in the sky, and the folks at Breezy News as well for helping out with that. Let's go back to Storm Track Doppler radar and looking at that storm. So we would be looking southwest from that camera location kind of into this bank of clouds there and into that area near Bolatusha that could have some rotation with it. It does not look terribly impressive on Storm Track Doppler radar, and that's a good thing. But there typically is not a ton of lead time before these, you really kind of pop up and in here in this situation. So let's go and track that whole batch there from west, the Bolatusha, all kind of northeast, and again about 50 miles per hour into this newly minted tornado warning. And a reminder that this is for Doppler radar indicated rotation that could develop into a tornado. Thankfully, in the last little bit here, one has not been spotted. Give me a moment to adjust this times because new radar scan coming in to make sure we're in the best position possible. So as you'll note here, we show Kosciuszko at about 7:42. Current time is 7:38. So this is moving into Kosciuszko from the southwest. I would say the most dangerous portion is the section up here close to the west community. But certainly down here, there are some spots where something could try to spin up. As you saw on that camera a moment ago, thankfully that is not the case at this point. French Camp, just about 8 o'clock. We're looking at Ethel at about 7:53. If you know some folks there, maybe Ackerman, maybe Biwai, maybe Reform, Mississippi, might send them a picture of this to let them know at the time that it's moving toward their community so that they can know that they need to get to a safer location as this moves into the area. So kind of clear that off of the screen. Let's kind of do a wider assessment on this line, see what we have. Certainly, I would say the storm down here southwest of Carthage looks rather rough. That's probably our roughest looking storm at this moment. Thankfully not in our area, but unfortunately it's in a zone that it will move into our area. Let's get an angle and let's get a longer track on that. So that angle, I have that could be heading, well, hold on, let's take the time to get this right. So give me a moment while I do this the old-fashioned way. So it's right there. So ignore the times you see on the screen here. I just wanted to get my angle right. So that is about the angle that is headed. And the time actually should be fairly close. Let's make sure that I have the time there. Nope, that's not. Let's go 50 miles per hour on that. Let's clear it off. And so generally speaking, that one, if it continues about that rate, we'd be looking a little more than an hour to Louisville. Eventually, if it made up closer to Columbus, close to around 2 hours for that particular part of this line of storms as it moves in. New mesoscale discussion, John. We'll check that out here in a minute when you get the chance. But a line here that unfortunately has had a history of producing some tornado damage, some spotty damage down south, and could potentially try to continue to produce that as it moves into our area. Looking northward on this line, up here closer to Winona and Grenada, again, Doppler radar indicated rotation with this kind of very wobbly line here. Lots of little areas of limited spin. Thankfully, nothing on this that screams imminent tornado, though watching that area near Winona fairly closely. Well, hold on. Near Winona, there's a couple of spots in here pretty close to Winona that we got to watch this very closely. Yeah, let's get a storm track on this specifically, and we'll put basically everything we can throw onto the storm track, one of those really close ones, and make sure we're at 50 miles per hour on this track. And John, when you get a chance, we'll double check the motion on these just to make sure we're good on that. So again, Winona, I'd be in my tornado safe place there. Certainly looking at Fox at about 747, Minerva at 752, Sweatman at 750, Catarata at 809, and Dentontown at 811. Doppler radar indicated rotation. What we're looking at for some of those spots, rotation that does look like it is increasing somewhat. Right there south of 407 on the southeast side of Winona. I know we had a big tornado there almost 2 years ago. Not at that level with this, but certainly it is a strengthening thunderstorm, a strengthening area of circulation. And though technically you are not under a tornado warning at this instant there, I would definitely be working my way closer to my tornado safe place if I lived in that spot, because this is definitely one we have to watch closely. I do want to bring in our meteorologist, John DeLusick, here for a moment. John, what do you have?
Well, the wind is picking up on that Kosciuszko cam. As a matter of fact, we're looking at right now, if you want to bring that up, it's starting to get pretty rainy and windy on that cam. I would venture to say, again, if something's happening, it's going to be happening in the next few minutes over there. Or at least it's starting to pick up pretty rapidly.
Yeah, it does look like, well, and unfortunately it looks like that camera might have just had some kind of power disruption.
Indeed, it looks, or at least, or maybe it looks almost like some part of that city, just the lights went out.
There we are, we're back. Okay. So yeah, you're right. The wind picking up, you can see definitely just on that light down there at the bottom. A lot of heavy rainfall with this obviously moving in as well, and that wind whipping around. A lot of cloud to ground lightning. So, and power disruption, something that we are monitoring via our partners at poweroutage.us. I do believe we can probably bring that up here for a moment when you get a chance. So certainly the southwest portion of the state where we have the most significant reports. Attala County, we're at about 290, so almost 300, that'd be customers. Of course, that's more people than that. It's just the number of individual customers. You know, for each household, that'd be a customer. The power outages we have in Winston County look like they've been resolved, okay, because they were earlier this evening. Go just west of Attala County there. I think it's Holmes County. Just west of Attala County, one county, because that's where this has been straddling that county line. And so you can see they're up to about 800 for at that spot there. So power outages increasing some, but luckily are not widespread everybody. So hopefully that's a good sign there of what we're looking at. Kind of an overview of warnings. And John, I'm going to have you, we're going to pop this up behind you for just a moment, John,
okay,
as we kind of do an overview of some of the warnings that we have at this instant.
Well, I mean, basically, I don't have the list, but I mean, you can see the.
Yeah, go ahead, and we'll pop John up here for a second full.
Okay, so you know, basically the warnings right now again that are happening. You can see the activity again as I get out of the way here. slip out of the way. You can see the activity again. Ackerman area, you're looking at Choctaw County, you're looking at obviously Atala County, the Kosciuszko area right now, and you're looking at those warnings going on here for the next little while. And it does look like we're going to be looking at, we're just looking at those storms not producing what we call, anything in the ways of, let's say, tornadic activity that's been confirmed on the ground. These are just radar reports right now. At least what I've been seeing, there are radar reports that are just showing, hey, we've got some possibility thereof of a tornado that could be in the form of developing overhead. I think you got the radar back up over there that shows you that the activities were just moving through the area. And we have not had any reports, Matt, have we, of anything that's touched down, correct?
No, we have not, thankfully, and hopefully that continues to be the case. It does look like there might be some kind of data disruption going out.
That's what I was about ready to say. But
yeah, that's what I was kind of checking behind the scenes here. It happens from time to time, and it's like there's severe weather. and so that sometimes causes data disruptions there. As I'm switching between different radar sites here, I think that might be one of the issues that we have going on. So we're going to keep this on the Columbus radar because it looks like that has our newest data. Very wobbly line here. And near Carmack, where I'd show the most intense part of this, though there are some areas there closer to Kosciuszko, some broader rotation up closer to Carmack is where it's a little bit more significant. I want to check based on this latest stuff up here closer to Winona, because again, we're looking fairly high up, but there's a zone in here on the east side of Winona, just north of US 82, working towards Spring Hill Road, Alva, Lilac, Lodi, that this has some rotation there as well. Still showing up fairly broad, and it does not look like I have anything that I can confirm looking at our debris indicator there, thankfully. Hopefully that remains the case. We'll double check down here and look at that area of rotation I show near Atala Road 3231. Atala Road 3231 near its intersection there of 3122. If I go back here to the wind mode, there's a couple of spots there that look a little bit more impressive, on particular this southern one there. Let's go ahead and circle it. We haven't had to break out the rotation circle a lot this evening, thankfully, but they're near Carmack where we're watching the most closely. I'm checking debris. I don't think that's something that I can confirm at this instant, thankfully, but that is a part there we're going to have to watch very closely. It's on the northern end of this tornado-warned thunderstorm. Get the angle. I think it's good, that part, the most impressive part, is going to cross out of that warning here fairly shortly if it hasn't. A couple spots in there. So let's look back at the wind. So we get that to pull up. That wind has not updated, so we're going to track it based on the latest where that is there. I'm going to include Eupora in the longer track on this. This is a improving circulation, unfortunately, as we look here in, this would be northern Atala County, moving into southern Montgomery, northern Choctaw, eventually heading into Webster County, an area of circulation that is increasing in intensity. We've talked a lot about these little wiggles in the line, right? And when you get this sort of S sort of shape, we look toward the middle of the S. That's where we're seeing that rotation increasing. That's definitely a spot we're going to have to watch very closely going forward. So if you do know some folks that are in this, the path of this, some of the locations listed there, make sure to snap a picture and send it to them. This is an increasingly intensifying storm that, if it's not producing a tornado, could produce one fairly soon if it continues to progress like it is. Looking up this line, tornado safety rules, despite the fact that you are not under a tornado warning, I would still be in a safer location east of Winona near Lodi and Lilac, some of those spots there, getting a storm track ahead on this area of circulation, the closest one that we do have there. And I'll take this all the way to Calhoun City. We show Calhoun City about 8:24. Current time is 7:49. So if that were to hold together, again, Doppler radar indicated rotation. This is not officially a tornado at this point, thankfully, not one we can confirm. Rotation is increasing. The presentation on radar is suspicious. It's night. Just better to be safe as opposed to sorry. So that's why we are tracking that ahead for you. As we go south on this line, and I'll pull those tornado safety rules down so we can have a better look at kind of everything else. Looking at the section here now, Kosciuszko eastward, and we'll look at the wind mode. Some broad areas, not as impressive. I'm going to try to see if we switch this back to where we can get the stuff out of Jackson. Perhaps that has updated better. It does look like it has. And luckily, I do not see, hold on, looking near Barnes there. Well, there's one area near Barnes and Patterson there that has increased a little bit the rotation in the last few moments here. Let's track that northward, speed at about 50 miles per hour. And so there's your times, as you can see, toward Ware at 8:20. We're looking at Ackerman about 8:27 for you, but Patterson 7:54, Rule Hill 8:07 as that moves toward eventually Chester and Fulcher as well as Fentress at this time. So strong wind potential, but I think also some rotation there that we're definitely going to have to continue to monitor as that moves through. Our camera there in Kosciuszko, we've been kind of checking back in and on that one. Certainly settling down a little bit. The strongest portion of this through Kosciuszko, awaiting an update to our data there. Wind gusts that showed up to around 26 miles per hour at the nearest reporting station. So certainly fairly breezy as that kicks through, even behind the storm as it's now kind of kicked through the area, though it does look like that reporting station might be just a little bit, just a hint ahead of that. As we bring this back here on Storm Track Doppler radar to kind of where we're at here, kind of look at the latest information, still going south, a number of other thunderstorms. One of the things that we've been kind of monitoring, and we do need to probably, first off, we're going to take John's mic up and down while he's on there and when he's not. But let's, John, I'm going to have you kind of get on the phone with Gabe if you can, just to kind of touch base with him, see where he's at, make sure he's in position, make sure he's at a safe location, if we could do that.
He did report about 10 minutes ago.
He did?
Yes.
Okay, so he's in the right spot there.
Also wanted me to mention that.
Okay, well, we can bring John up for just a second.
Okay, he also wanted me to mention here when I had a chance that there is a shelter in the Ackerman area that is open. That's in downtown Ackerman at the courthouse.
Okay, and Ackerman is under that tornado warning. You do still have a few minutes there in Ackerman if you want to get to shelter. We typically do not encourage you to do a whole lot of traveling during tornado warnings, especially because if I say it now and it takes you 10 minutes to get out the door, well, that's no good. That's a much more dangerous situation for you. Time to Ackerman. Current time is, 7:52, and this shows Ackerman by 8:21. So again, that's about 22 minutes or so. Certainly, we encourage you to do the best you can to shelter in place in this situation. There's a little bit of time there, but if it takes you 5 minutes to get out the door, you don't have a lot of time to get where you need to go. So that's part of the reason why, once the tornado warning is issued, we need to be to the best possible option where we're at. Cars, trucks, mobile homes, not places we need to be. We need to be in a sturdy, site-built structure in a small windowless room as this moves into the area because of the potential that it could produce tornadoes. Looking north of Barnes there and east of Kosciuszko, and I'm just looking at the precipitation mode there where I have a couple areas that have some additional rotation on it there. The one north of Barnes, one of those that's a little better. Let's see how old this data is now. See, that data, I show 746, so still a few minutes old. So the positioning on that might not be completely up to date. Though it's going to be lower resolution, let's go look at the data coming out of Monroe County. And so I show it closer to Patterson there, closer to Ethel, where those two areas are. And let's see how old that data is, just double check. And then, well, that's a couple minutes old. That's 7:49, so about 3 to 4 minutes old. And that's about how often we're getting these updates there. So looking kind of on the north part of this, let's kind of work north to south on this once again. Eastern Grenada County, you are under a severe thunderstorm warning, rotation detected, the tag for the National Weather Service there in Jackson. A few areas where we do have some interactions, some areas of rotation with this there. I don't see a clear-cut tornado out of this, thankfully, on this perspective. There's an area there south of Lilac that I'm watching a little more closely than most. Do I think it's a tornado at this instant? No. And I don't think it looks quite as impressive as it did a few minutes ago, where the angle was a little bit more like a tornado producer. See how it has kind of that angle, and then it kind of goes more north-south on the latest scan. So hopefully that's a sign that the tornado potential or whatever damaging wind potential could be weakening a little bit. Near Poplar Creek, though, watching another area there where we have had some circulation. When it was near Carmack, it was a little more pronounced right there. So let's go ahead and now look and see how that has progressed in the last 5 to 7 minutes. I still show it there near Poplar Creek and Winfrey Road, south of Mississippi Highway 407. There's Kilmichael, there's Huntsville, Mississippi, French Camp behind the bug there in the corner. This is our area of circulation. Not a tornado for sure, but an area of rotation that, because we're looking about a mile up, could have something more going on down at the ground than what's going on up top there. So tracking that toward the north and east, kind of the direction this is going, it's likely to cross out of this tornado warning here fairly soon. And there's kind of the angle that we're going on it. And I'll double check the tornado debris mode. I do not have anything that, necessarily yields tornado debris, thankfully. But that is certainly an area that we're watching. Luckily on the rainfall mode here does not look quite as impressive as a few minutes ago. Hopefully that's a good sign. But as we talked about, there's this wedge of moisture. It's got to be a better term for that. That's just a meteorologist term. But essentially there's this wedge of moisture here, this narrow corridor of moisture that's working northward. And this is kind of on the top end of that. Either this Minerva storm or the Poplar Creek storm is probably on the top end of that wedge of moisture and more unstable air that's kind of moving into the region and then most likely to kind of trigger these additional tornado warnings. And so it's just kind of on the north edge of that, where we might have the strongest winds aloft still going on, and you might have the more unstable air, and there's kind of unfortunately, kind of a primed location somewhere in here where that's going to be the case. To this point has proven to be a little bit farther south, but as moisture's aloft kicked up, there's a very wobbly line. Wobbly lines sometimes produce tornadoes, hence the reason National Weather Service is issuing tornado warnings on this thunderstorm as it moves northeast through the area. Checking the wind mode on Storm Track Doppler radar, still fairly broad across most of this line. I'm going to see if we can bring up the Jackson radar here again and just kind of check how that is looking. And there have been some spots of concern. At this point, I still just see primarily broad sort of rotation, areas where there are interactions, but luckily not something that I can confirm. As we've talked about over and over again, not being able to confirm is a good thing, because when we confirm, that means people's lives have changed for the worse. So tornado warnings continue to be issued south of this area as well along this line. The current time is 7:56, now 7:57. I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Lawpon alongside of meteorologist John DeLucica, Craig Ford, and a few other folks here behind the scenes continuing to assess the situation. New tornado warning issued for Winston County. That is a tornado warning because of these thunderstorms. And they're fairly large tornado warnings, not typically as precise as maybe we're used to getting on some of these, and that has to do with the fact that it's night. And many of these storms have proven to produce tornadoes with very little lead time. So if they call the individual areas of rotation, which is what we typically can do because of the locations we're looking at too high away from the radar, I think that's why they're kind of issuing larger tornado warnings. So these fairly blanket tornado warnings hitting a lot more people than maybe they typically do in this situation. So with that in mind, let's look at the opportunities for wind damage there as well as rotation. That one near Edinburgh there was a lead storm that's kind of merging with the line. And that merger, we talked about this at 6 o'clock, probably going to happen in western Winston County here, up here someplace. And that could enhance, it'll be interference. Is it constructive interference that encourages additional tornado development, or maybe a strengthening as it represents hitting that sweet spot we were talking about, that primed zone for tornado development? Or is it something that just kind of messes everything up? We'll obviously know together here within about the next 25 minutes, but a lot of times when you get a cell merger occurring with the line, it can at least briefly enhance the tornado potential. So that's our concern as this Edinburgh storm, Alice storm, southern storm there southwest of Louisville kind of merges with our line that's produced these tornado warnings back out closer to Kosciuszko. The Jackson radar does pick up on something interesting here. There's some spots that brighter red you can see working from south to north here. Not necessarily the thunderstorm itself, but that's that surge of moisture we're talking about. It makes me more confident that this is probably the spot there on the north end of that wedge of moisture where it's possible that this could be trying to, again, produce a tornado. So that's why this zone up here closer to Kilmichael and Stewart and Huntsville is one that, one of those spots there that we're definitely continuing to track. So let's look here in more detail at that. Again, the north part here will give you some times for Eupora. Looking at Eupora there, about 8:18, again, assuming about 50 miles per hour. Hohenlinden there at 8:35. Tom Nolan there at 8:10, Stewart at 8:05, Pelez at 8:09. Some strong winds, rotation that could potentially produce a tornado. Thankfully, we're still in that maybe, possibly, not guaranteed phase on this. As we clear this out here for a moment, I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Lawpon. Current time is now 8 p.m. You're watching our continuous coverage on NBC and intermittent coverage on ABC of tornado warnings that have prompted some damage to our south and west. To this point, thankfully, we have not had reports of tornado damage in our area. Unfortunately, those reports are typically delayed by 30 minutes or more in some cases, just because it takes time for those reports to come back in. So we'll know those things after the fact. But it's with that concern that the National Weather Service has issued tornado warnings for sections of Atala, Choctaw, Montgomery, Winston counties, all under different tornado warnings at this moment as this kind of moves from southwest to northeast through the area. Where you see this spin showing up on here is one of the areas where we're looking to see potentially a cell merger somewhere here in western Atala or southern Choctaw County. We're going to try to get with our meteorologist Gabe Mariner in a minute. He's up there in Ackerman, kind of positioned for that to occur in case something were to happen there, and we hope to talk to him here in a few minutes. But I would say still north of Patterson here, north of Mississippi Highway 14, and then near Allison, where these two spots are, and we'll see how that looks like they could be on a course that take them in the southern portion there of Choctaw County, and possibly cause it to spin up a tornado at that point there. Looking at the latest information, again, we continue to define this as Doppler radar indicated rotation that could potentially lead to the development of a tornado. One has not been confirmed at this point, thankfully, and hopefully that remains the case. We do have team coverage here in the studio with our meteorologist, John DeLusick, who continues to kind of monitor your reports, as well as chat with the North Mississippi Storm Chasers and Spotters. He has the latest information on what's been going on there. And luckily to this point, John, it has been no news most of the night. Does that continue to be the case?
That is correct. No news is usually good news, and in this situation, definitely good news across the area. Just looking at, again, even the storms that are, again, away from our area now into western Alabama, still over portions of our area, that is. That's also good news that those have not flared up yet, and still no watch yet issued for the folks in Alabama, but there is still an indication. Obviously, when these storms that are in Mississippi reach in that area, there will be a watch issued. All in all, things like you say, no news is good news across our neck of the woods. And yes, just talked to Ackerman, and basically Ackerman with Gabe in Ackerman, so hopefully we'll get something there because it's about ready to start storming big time in the city of Proper.
Absolutely, you're right. It is starting to get more organized. And again, one of the things we've talked a lot about in the last couple minutes here has been the merger of this kind of lead supercell out by itself, as it has been all night. We always worry about the ones out by themselves. Getting a little brighter there near Alice, entering the southwest portion of Winston County there, tracking close to Highway 25 where it is at this moment. One of those that we're definitely going to have to watch. Let's look a little closer at this from a couple of different angles, looking at the reflectivity mode, the wind mode here on Storm Track Doppler radar. The area of rotation is probably right about there. It's not well defined on this on the precipitation mode, thankfully, because again, we're talking about the merger between these two. And it is a merger that increases tornado potential or decreases it, because that merger is occurring now. It will emerge from that merger probably up here in Choctaw County or maybe the northwest portion of Winston County, and unfortunately we'll have a great idea at that point as to what it has chosen to do with the winds. But certainly there's an enhancement of winds. You can see the brighter greens there with that as it moves that direction. So let's get a storm track along kind of that leading portion there, and I'm going to cut back into the precipitation just a hint there, because right up here, just looking at precipitation now, I can see that curling around a little bit more. Let's make sure that that's not just, that might have more to do with this, the portion of the storm there kind of moving in. I do want to check in with our, I'm gonna do some radar analysis behind the scenes for a second. I want to check in with our meteorologist, Gabe Maynor, who is in Ackerman at this time, I believe at a storm shelter there in town. Gabe, how you doing?
Yeah, Matt, things have really picked up in intensity over here in Ackerman. I got to the Choctaw County Courthouse, which is the Choctaw County safe place to be. And when I got there, there was 3 individuals there. Now it's picked up to around 20. So people know this is the place to go, and they are staying safe in this process, with cars continuing to pull in as we speak. Now, what's taking place behind me is lightning. Lightning activity has increased, which shows the instability in the air and shows that system getting closer over time. Now, rumbles of thunder rolling in as well. Rain starting to pick up a little bit more. Still waiting on that main line to get here, but I assure you this is the place to be here in Ackerman, as we are still under that tornado warning for a few more minutes as that line continues to progress on through. But Matt, it is important to note that people are heeding the warnings, people are listening and getting to where they need to go right here in Choctaw County. Even driving down the roads, I saw other cars heading directly this way. Downtown was quiet, so people were understanding that they needed to be weather aware throughout the day. So it's all good signs here in Ackerman. We should make sure that we're safe on the other side of this line. Live in Ackerman, Gabe Maynor, WTVA 9 News.
And a reminder where those unsafe places are: cars, trucks, and manufactured homes. And frankly, if you look around your location, go, I don't know. We do have that list of storm shelters, and there are quite a few of them, especially for the northern 2/3 of the area at WTVA.com. If you open up your smartphone, scan that QR code, it will give you that information and let you know where storm shelters are in your area. One thing I want to show here on the wide shot for a moment is you'll note here, looking at what we call rotation track. We don't show this all the time, but there certainly have been consistent areas of rotation along this line. But what I want to show you on the northern portion here, the portion that's more moving to our area, you'll notice less and less of these red returns versus about an hour ago where there are a lot of them. They're less and less showing up. That does show some weakening as it moves northward into our area. Thankfully, hopefully, a trend that does continue. Folks are still prepping in advance of this, though, in Lowndes County. That's where our Avery Hilliard is at this time, also kind of prepping and waiting as this storm moves toward her location. We'll check in with her live now. And Avery, are folks heeding the warnings there as well?
Hey, Matt, yeah, live here in Columbus. Now, we are currently at the Columbus Police Department. We've been driving around just to scope things out. We were by Highway 45 earlier, but I don't want to sound cliche, but it's calm before the storm. The rain is here and there. The wind is picking up just a little bit, but right now it's calm. I don't want to say dry, but it is really calm now. We did reach out to the Lowndes County MA Director, Cindy Lawrence. Now, she says so far there are no weather issues, but they do have their shelters open. Now, those are located at the Career Tech Center on Lindenberg Road, New Hope High School, and Caledonia Elementary. But she says so far there are no damage reports, but we are out here. We're waiting to see if anything happens, so we can, send back some damage video and just keep you all updated. So make sure you stay with WTVA 9 News as we keep you all updated on the latest weather conditions. Live in Columbus, Avery Hilliard, WTVA 9 News.
I appreciate that, Avery, and thankfully to this point, kind of telling the overall story here. As you can see, the majority of the reports, and again, these are always going to be delayed, have been to our south at this point, and following in particular a few of those storms that do continue to now start to move into our area. That's why we are kind of, as we talked about at 6 o'clock and earlier today, in that time period, 8 to 10 o'clock is really the peak, with storms remaining potentially severe beyond 11 o'clock tonight in West Alabama. So we're really now starting to kind of reach that peak time frame if we were to see something produce severe weather when it could occur. And so looking at these reports, and in particular this section that went back through Madison, it is this storm there closer to Philadelphia, and some of these up here moving toward Louisville that we're watching the most closely at this instant as they continue to kind of evolve as they move toward the north and east. So we've been watching and waiting for this cell merger to occur here near Hines, where two storms come together, and sometimes that enhances some of the wind potential on it. I certainly still see that wind trying to get more organized on that lead storm there and wrap back around. Doesn't look like it has done it to this point yet, but let's go ahead and go back to the precipitation mode as we kind of go back and forth between some of these. That's still out ahead of this. So we have what we call the low-level jet. We don't talk a lot about that, but it's a river of fast-moving air that's closer to the ground than the typical jet stream that's way up there. And so that is really starting to crank up. And so that's, I think, what we're seeing there, starting to hit the front end of this line. That's what's caused some of these to show more rotation over the last 45 minutes or so than where they were before. And that's why it's just such a wobbly line in here. And so I think that might be part of what we're seeing affect that storm. We are hopeful that we have less instability north or too little instability to really keep these thunderstorms going farther north. Nonetheless, still enough here that we recommend that certainly if you're out here in, say, Noxapater or Louisville, that we're in that tornado safe place. You can see inside that red box there, inside those red lines, where we're watching the most closely as this kind of moves toward the northeast. So I'm going to track the front end of this line here at, again, that about 50 to 55 miles per hour is what this typically has been. And so you can see that track there toward the northeast at that speed. We're looking at Louisville at 819, up around Starkville, Mississippi State by around 8:40 or so. Current time is just about 8:10. So continuing to track that toward the northeast, potential for some rotation in this line, a possibility that this could produce severe weather. I do want to bring in our meteorologist, John DeLucic. I heard my voice coming from the app here a second ago. New update coming in. John, what are you seeing?
We've got a severe thunderstorm warning now in effect for Calhoun, Chickasaw, and Pontotoc counties. That is until 8:45. Also, National Weather Service is also talking about extending the tornado watch into northeast Mississippi pretty shortly. So they did not mention yet which counties would be included, but they do mention that we may in the next little while see those counties added. So again, things are just, I think, just playing it on the safe side, definitely with that severe thunderstorm warning now coming up on that northern end of that squall line. At least it's not tornadic. I think that's a little bit of good news, I guess, being that it's not a tornado warning, it's just a severe thunderstorm warning, but still, more or less quarter-size hail, dime to quarter-size hail, not out of the question, in 60-mile-per-hour winds for Chickasaw, Calhoun, and Pontotoc counties.
Okay, and as you mentioned a moment ago as well, tornado watch will be issued for, this will be Calhoun, everything from Calhoun County to the Alabama state line, including Pontotoc County, Lee County, Prentiss County, and Tishomingo County. Alcorn County's left out, Union County, Tippah County, and Lafayette County, and I guess Yellowbush County all left out. So we're going to have this chunk here that should come in, that data here, in a few moments. The new tornado watch that also includes all the other folks there in West Alabama. This watch is going to be a late one, but we will be canceled out of it, as we talked about with the time frame here. Beyond really midnight should be out of here, and not until 4 a.m. for locations farther to the east, how long that watch is in effect. So that's the new tornado watch that's coming in, just waiting on the folks at the National Weather Service in Memphis to put out the official counties on that. I think the box here, it doesn't look like the new box has come in yet as well, but that should happen here fairly soon. So new severe thunderstorm warning, as you mentioned, from the folks at the National Weather Service in Memphis, does include Slate Springs. And here's a concern. Anytime I get an inflow area, kind of an inflow channel showing up there on the north side of one of these, I start to get a little concerned. Let's look at the wind mode on that. Well, let's be clear here. Slate Springs, that's pretty close to something. So let's circle that for a moment. Right there near the intersection of 8 and 9, southwest of Calhoun City, not by a lot. Let's double check to see what the time is on this latest scan to make sure we know. 8:12, so only about a minute old. Hey, so our folks on ABC here for a moment. New severe thunderstorm warning issued for Calhoun and Chickasaw, and I think part of Pontotoc there. The reality is that this has an area of circulation with it that could be attempting to produce a tornado. It's one of the more impressive ones we have on radar at this point. Still fairly high up, but it's one of the more impressive ones. 8:20 the time there. That's only 7 minutes for folks in Calhoun City. So I'm going to put on those tornado safety rules. This rotation detected on this thunderstorm, clearly there. Not officially a tornado warning. I'd be moving to that tornado safe place if I were you, just to make sure we're in the best and safest location possible. A small windowless room where you can wrap up with blankets and pillows as necessary. And of course, sturdy structure is most important there. Watching that storm closely. That is an area of rotation that is increasing in intensity and organization there. Now, I got a clear-cut inflow channel starting to form there. Calhoun City, heads up, head in your direction. Let's walk down this line here near Eupora. Another area of rotation that I'm showing up with there. Less impressive when we look on radar there, so I'm going to skip south to make sure we're in good shape. Between Ware and Tom Nolan there, let's look at the precipitation mode on Storm Track Doppler radar. A little inflow area there showing up, not as well pronounced as up to the north. But I'm going to get the track in Ackerman because, again, the time's probably ticking down there pretty quickly on Ackerman. Latest scan there, we showed time in Ackerman at around 8:20, so same time as when it's making its way into Calhoun City on the other thunderstorm. So we're now down to 6 minutes there.
Just been tornado warning with that one, what you were just mentioning.
For the one in Ackerman?
Yes, no, for the one that was mentioning
Calhoun
about
County?
Slate is for, they went tornado
Yeah.
warning for Pontotoc County, et cetera.
Yeah, so this one up here is clearly the strongest one we have. So tornado warning now issued. For the folks in the back, we're staying on ABC now for the next little bit here. Tornado warning issued for Calhoun City, Vardaman, Thorne, Holka, all included in that Buckhorn as well. Bruce not officially in this. I'd be in that tornado safe place there. Sturdy structure, small windowless room, place where you can wrap up with blankets and pillows. The rotation has increased substantially on this area of circulation just in the last 10 minutes or so. We will have a new scan on it in a minute. I'm going to go ahead and advance it, assuming our scan's right there. Yeah, this one's picking up. Let's look for the tornado debris. Not something I can confirm, though I do expect to have new information on that. Even shows up a little better on what we call base velocity here in a second. This is at the very least damaging winds moving toward Calhoun City, but it's likely a developing tornado for you in Calhoun City. I know we haven't shouted your name much lately, but we have been watching this area when it was back southwest. This is potentially a tornado in the development phases as we speak, and thankfully no tornado debris on this, but of course that's something that confirms the tornado after the fact. This is Doppler radar indicated rotation that is increasing in intensity. This is our strongest area of rotation in our area tonight. So for you in Calhoun City, in Vardaman, let's get an angle to give you an idea of where it is. We're less than 10 minutes for you in Calhoun City. So moving up toward Highway 9, pretty much along the Highway 8-9 at this point here, where this is. Let's go ahead and put on basically kind of all the things we can. Just a reminder, we're now down to 5 minutes there in Calhoun City. 5 minutes until this area of circulation moves into the middle of town. That's not the southwest portion of town, that's the middle of town. So let's bring it in a little closer and let's kind of talk about some things. I would have our tornado, if it were on the ground at this moment, I would have it pretty much right on top of the 8-9 split in Calhoun County there, moving toward Calhoun City. This is County Road 306 out the east side of town there. Big Creek, you can see kind of behind me. This is certainly a place in Big Creek we need to be in that tornado safe place as well. Looking at the wind mode there, still waiting on that to update. So I expect in our next scan, our area of circulation to be right there. So let's put on everything we basically can onto this warning. I'm going to make sure Calhoun City's in it. I really kind of want to go a little west of this as well. These don't always have a straight line motion with them. Sometimes they kind of move a little bit. And so I'm concerned on the north side of this, especially when you have a big low-level jet like we have tonight. Sometimes it shoves it a little more north. 8:20 for you, Calhoun City. Current time just clicked over to 8:17. That's 3 minutes midtown Calhoun City, assuming 50 miles per hour. It might be a little fast. I'd rather it be fast than slow. Tornado warning for you, and the potential that this could produce a tornado at some point fairly soon, okay? Now we got to look at whatever that little blue splotch is there. New update, it looks like, on our position here related to this tornado warning. I would say it's just north of the 8-9 split now. And I'm going to put our area of circulation right there. Kind of basically, you can see we're almost into the city grid of Calhoun City. Calhoun City, the name not showing up there, but that dot represents where Calhoun City is at this time. So we're basically right there into Calhoun City at this moment. I'll get the names all to show up. We show really Calhoun Academy on the west side of town there at 8:24. So that's within the next 4 minutes or so for you. I'm going to clear off that that track, honestly, and let's get in here really close for just a moment and double check for tornado debris. So looking at the wind mode there, see it's a little farther east on the wind mode. I'm being a little too precise on this if we're being honest. So I don't need to be quite as precise as we are. I have to remember that we're a mile up. And so sometimes things happen at the surface, so we need a bigger circle there. I wish I could be more precise. Typically we are more precise, but when you're looking this high, we just can't always be. And so it does not look like I can confirm tornado debris on this at this moment, thankfully. But this is moving into Calhoun City within the next probably 2.5 minutes at longest. So hopefully we're in that tornado safe place, a small windowless room, place where we can wrap up with blankets and pillows, stay there until we can give you the all clear. If your signal goes out, we do stream live in the WTVA News and WTVA Weather app, as well as WTVA.com/live. So stay with us there for the very latest information as well. As we bring this down here, okay, yeah, we definitely need to stay on ABC now. Double check with me before we go back. So that's moving into Calhoun City at this moment. Let's look south along this line. Got to double check because, of course, we have storms moving into Louisville as well. We've talked a lot about the merger there of those storms. It does look like whatever merger we're having as this is moving into Ackerman, and we could check in with our meteorologist, Gabe Maynor, here in a moment. It looks like there is just the littlest kink with that as well. I don't know that we're going to be able to necessarily get him because he's probably in a reinforced room that can't get signal out there. So we might check and see if we're able to talk with Gabe. If not, just kind of let me know on that. You are under a tornado warning there in Choctaw County until 8:30. That storm is moving in the direction there of Mabin and Starkville, and the other storms that we're also watching here moving through Louisville as well. Just looking at the wind on that, a little more rotation showing up, but it is still broad rotation. Thankfully, it's not tight like what we have up in Calhoun County, where we could potentially have a tornado attempting to develop as we speak. So that's why I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this portion of the line at this moment. We're going to get you a longer track. We're going to put on tornado safety rules, and I'm going to encourage you to take a picture of this and send it to somebody that might live in the path of this. Say they live in Starkville, maybe a son or daughter or friends that are in Starkville over the course of the break. Just let them know, hey, there is a storm that has rotation with it, could be moving toward you. Here's the time it's going to move toward you. In Brooksville, you can see on there at about 8:58. We're looking at Columbus at 9:11. And of course, in the near term, Adaton at about 8:39. We do have a camera there that we will check here in a couple of minutes for the latest on that. Coming northward, though, a tornado warning does continue for Calhoun County, a storm where that rotation is pretty much over top of Calhoun City right now as we speak. Luckily, I would say it is an elongated area of rotation, and some of the things that got me most concerned a moment ago don't look as impressive as they were. I still have my inflow area there, my notch where that's trying to come in. If I go back a couple more, you can see how that was just a little bit more impressive, a little bit more direct. And so that is perhaps a good sign, but we're also looking fairly high up. I would put our area circulation right there over top of Calhoun City at this moment. So moving north and east, let's get a track ahead then toward Lloyd. I'm going to see if we can make it broad enough here to also include Vardaman in this track. We'll try to put on as much of this as we can. I'm probably going to have to do 2 tracks in order to make this happen. So there's a lot of different locations. Durham, we show 8:22. Current time is going to be 8:22 in just a moment. So it's over top of you there. Lloyd at 8:31. We're looking at Reed at 8:35, and eventually working its way closer to West Grove Church at 8:42. Fairly rural locations there that we're talking about, but an area of circulation nonetheless that could potentially produce a tornado. I'm going to bring in our meteorologist, John DeLusick, for just a second here, see if there's any discussion with the National Weather Service there in Memphis related to this that they have seen, that you've seen.
I do not see anything directly. All I know is about there has just basically been the warning itself that has been put out right now. And I do not see any posts anywhere of any kind of pictures or anything like that. Obviously, it's nighttime. You're not going to get too many pictures, obviously, or any reports, at least, of somebody seeing some damage, at least. And again, going back to what we've mentioned in the past and many a times, no news is good news for right now, and hopefully that stays that way.
Okay, yeah, you're absolutely right. Hopefully it does stay that way. Appreciate that, John. So tornado warning does continue until 8:45 for Calhoun, some sections of Pontotoc, as well as Chickasaw counties, an area of rotation that certainly has increased in the last 15-20 minutes and could potentially try to produce a tornado. As we track that ahead, about 50 miles per hour, that's the thing I should have had you double check, John, is to see the speed on that. I'm going to do a long track on this, go fairly far ahead on where this could be going if it holds together there. Actually, I'm going to adjust that a little more north. Give me a moment. There we are. So there's where this could be going. And again, might be a good idea to just snap a picture of this as well with our tornado safety rules. Let some folks know a severe thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado down in Calhoun County now, close to Calhoun City, and it's going to be moving north and eastward. There are some times on locations on where it could be going. No guarantees it will produce a tornado or that it necessarily has produced a tornado, but there's a possibility that it could at some point in the near future if it continues to strengthen somewhat. John, we'll bring in meteorologist John DeLusick again.
50 miles an hour moving northeast is a good pace. That's about, I estimate, about 49, 50 miles an hour. That's pretty much on the money.
Okay, good. So that means we've been all right on that.
All right.
Okay, appreciate that, John. If you see anything, let me know what you're looking at. So as of now, 8:24, this area of rotation moving through Calhoun City, probably on the east side of town near County Road 406, north of Hollis, between really kind of north of Derma. And it does not show perfectly when we look at the wind mode there, but I mean, I see just right there on the precipitation mode, I could see just this brighter area where the wind could come around there and produce something. So County Road 401, pretty much on top of you at this moment, moving toward the Lloyd community at this time. Doppler radar indicated rotation with this that could potentially be a tornado. I'm going to track it based on that kind of furthest location to get a few other folks here. This might be too tight on some of the spots, but Lloyd we show at 8:27. Current time just clicked over to 8:25. So watching this area of rotation for you in the Reed community at 8:31, and Victory Baptist Church about 8:37. Taylor Church right on top of you, 8:24, 8:25, where we are at the time. So it is moving through there now. The wind mode shows that rotation just slightly south of that. And never good when we get this wind error there. Sometimes that just shows that there's something else going on the radar is looking at. I'm going to look at the tornado debris mode. Luckily, not something that I can confirm at this moment. I'm going to see if it's on its most sensitive mode. So give me a moment just to kind of change my color table to do that, to make sure it's on the most sensitive, just in case there's something. This is more likely to give me a false positive, but I don't see anything on there that says, yeah, that's tornado, thankfully. Okay, so good sign there. But certainly an area that bears some significant concern and watching. Let's go down this line, check on the other locations also under tornado warnings. Question is going to be whether or not Weather Service in Jackson decides to continue to issue tornado warnings ahead of this Mabin storm in particular. No guarantees that is the case, because there's kind of this zone there that thankfully has weakened, and Louisville still watching that for you. Maybe if we go to the radar out of Jackson, it'll be a little clearer. At the moment, waiting on the latest there. Yeah, north of Louisville, I have a little area there in this little kink, but it's not as impressive as what's going on farther north. So I'm going to give kind of a wider track on this, as this track's kind of generally speaking out this way. Starkville locations ahead there. They're going to be issuing a new tornado warning for Oktibbeha County in the next few minutes here related to this storm. So a new tornado warning will be coming for Oktibbeha County. That would include Starkville locations such as that as this moves toward the north and east. So Starkville, heads up for you that we're looking at 850 on Storm Track Doppler radars when it will make it into your area, as a new tornado warning should be coming out. Let's adjust based on the new position there, which is going to shave off just a little bit of time. So 8:48. So again, 8:45 to 8:50, about when that's going to move through, depending on what part of town we're talking about for you. And of course, also, other locations such as Artesia, Columbus, you're in this as well. No guarantees you'll be officially in the tornado warning, but some advanced heads up for you there. Looking at southern parts of Winston County on kind of our loop here over the last hour. Still some spots with some rotation, none that is for sure, thankfully, but something we'll continue to watch. Coming north here, still waiting, it looks like on a new scan on our storm in Calhoun City. Let's see if the precipitation mode has updated. It has. It's running ahead of the wind mode. And so I would say near Lloyd is where we have our area of rotation. Let's go ahead and circle it. Up here close to County Road 433, moving north and east at about 50 miles per hour. And because of the uncertainty, which is a good thing, certainty when it comes to tornadoes is not a good thing. Might make us look smart, but that means something bad has happened. So because of the uncertainty, I'm going to track a larger area, not just my rotation area. I'm going to track areas outside of that either way, just in case something were to spin up or it's positioned a little differently than what we're looking at on here. So watching that track northward, we show it in eastward toward Lloyd at 8:28, and of course that is the current time. Reed at 8:33, Thorne at 8:35, Holka at 8:43, and Algoma by around 8:50 as it moves north and east. Current time is now 8:28, almost 8:29. I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Lawpon alongside our meteorologist John DeLusick as tornado watches have been issued for much of the WTVA 9 News viewing area. A new tornado warning has now been issued that does include all of Clay County and all of Oktibbeha County on this. Typically, we get more what we call polygonal or polygon or, like shaped tornado warnings. National Weather Service in Jackson choosing this evening to do basically whole county tornado warnings for one reason or another, just because of the generalized threat that we have had and the previous tornadoes that we have had out of this line. We're going to look out of our Adeton camera there in, this would be Oktibbeha County. So give me a moment to pull that up here just to kind of get a shot back toward the south and west into this. And it just looks dark there. But what I'm going to try to do, if you'll give me a moment, is I'm going to pull off of the current data and I'm going to go back and look at the time lapse and we'll see how this has kind of changed over the last little bit here. Just looks like a lot of low clouds. Looks like that lightning definitely is starting to increase on that. The temperature is 64. Dew point, that measure of moisture at 64 as well. So continuing to kind of increase those southeast winds, bringing more moisture up. Part of the reason we're priming things in Adeton. I can see a base there on this. This is what we're going to be watching closely as this storm moves into the area. I believe our Mabin camera should also have a decent angle, hopefully, on that, though it does look like inundated with a lot of rainfall at this point, which is not shocking. That's the way most of these cameras are. I'm going to go back and look at the time lapse on this one as well, just to kind of get an idea. You can see most of the low clouds with that kind of coming in the big wall of rain. So a lot of things we're watching there. Thankfully, at this point, it looks like still obviously a bit ahead of that there. And in Kosciuszko, things were a lot more active just a little bit ago. Things starting to calm down a little bit more as that came through. If you're in Kosciuszko, you're past the worst of this, thankfully. But we are going to try to touch base here in a moment with our meteorologist, Gabe Maynor, who is in Ackerman. And we positioned him there as this line came through. The worst of it has moved through, and we'll touch base with him here in just a moment. Let's come up here to Calhoun County. It does look like National Weather Service in Memphis has gone ahead and canceled the tornado warning as that area of circulation has diminished somewhat. Still fairly broad. There's an area of circulation there, and there clearly is an area where a couple spots where we have the rotation evident on the precipitation mode, but it's not as evident as maybe it was a little bit ago where we had something fairly clearly defined. There's thankfully more questions. As a result, National Weather Service leaving the severe thunderstorm warning in place for this thunderstorm there while dropping the tornado warning. So I'm going to track this whole section there, and then we'll kind of track that northeastward and include Pontotoc, some spots ahead. So about 50 miles per hour Pontotoc, we're looking at 8:55 for you. That's within about 24 minutes or so if it continues about 50 miles per hour. And I do have a new scan, so that this is going to reduce that time just a little bit. So give me a moment to utilize that new scan. And so you'll notice now Pontotoc, we're down to about 8:53. So we cut off 2 minutes based on that. So working toward you, Davis Lake, you're in the path of this. If you know some folks at Trey State Park, not typically a camping time of year, but both of those recreational areas or people near those are under this severe thunderstorm warning. This area, broad circulation, tracking toward Troy and Furs as well. So we clear that off. Let's come down south here and let's go back to our tornado-warned thunderstorms. I want to look at the one in Mabin because Mabin's right on the edge of that kind of moving in. So really, as you can see, that area of circulation in the Mabin pretty much as we speak. So let's go ahead and go back to that camera here for just a moment as kind of the worst that is in there. A lot of heavy rainfall visible on this. You might check, John, with the chasers and see if they can drop this camera, point it down just a little bit more. It's got up a little high.
The Adeton cam?
No, the Mabin camera.
Mabin camera. Okay, Mabin. Okay.
Mabin camera.
All righty.
A lot of lightning on that, a lot of heavy rainfall as that moves through. And the fact that we're starting to get in where we have, the glossiness showing up means we might not have much visibility to begin with. And unfortunately, I'm hung up on an image there. Hopefully we didn't take some kind of power hit there. It's back. That is one of the challenges with these cameras. Meanwhile, lots of lightning showing up on the Adeton camera as that thunderstorm continues to kind of encroach on there. It's going to be a lot of lightning with these. And so some power disruption, certainly a possibility as well out of these thunderstorms this evening. Back to Storm Track Doppler radar. So giving you a track on the Mabin portion of this, that will be moving through western Clay County. and I'm going to get kind of this whole line here from Manatee back toward Mabin and track that section there toward the east and northeast. Speed on that, we're showing at about 50 miles per hour, which is what they pretty much all are. Phoebe, we're looking at 840. Dancy at 834. We're looking at Waddell at 845. Cedar Bluff at 848. And Abbott at 854. This is some broad rotation. And when we define what we're looking at on this, a National Weather Service in Jackson issuing this warning, fairly broad one, because of the history of rotation and issues that have happened in the past. I think, I don't have a super high confidence level on this producing a tornado in the next few minutes, though certainly the part near Mabin is one that we're going to have to watch pretty closely. That part is one we've been watching for quite a while as this thunderstorms move through the Choctaw County area. And I do want to touch base with our meteorologist, Gabe Maynor, who is in Ackerman, was there as this line came through to kind of give us an idea of what he saw at ground level with this, and then we're going to go down to Winston County. Gabe, what are you seeing there as of 8:34 p.m.?
Yeah, Matt, things have lightened up since we talked here about 30 minutes ago. There's still a ton of lightning in the background, as you can see, flashing. I mean, some bigger than others, but where I'm pointing is actually off there towards the east. This line moving west from east, so it's transitioned. It's moved past us here in Choctaw County. So I did talk to the people in the storm shelter and gave them the all clear, saying everyone in Choctaw County is good to go home because that main line has passed. So they're all heading out, good to go. But they were all heeding the warnings, staying safe. And that is so important during this time, is just heading to your safe place to better be safe than sorry. Of course, did some people want to be there? No, but they still went just to make sure that they saw the next hour, just to make sure that they were as safe as possible. There was weenie dogs there, so they made sure to bring their pets as well. So whatever you want to bring, whatever valuables you have, go ahead and bring them just to make sure they all make it through in case these storms do produce a tornado. But when we talk about producing, we have avoided that here in Ackerman. There's no damage, as you can see behind me. The only thing now is the little drops of rain. I mean, much lighter than what we saw in that batch of lightning off there towards the east. Even that is starting to thin up as time passes on. So here in Ackerman, we're good to go. But that line is continuing to track eastward, and more warnings are continuing to be issued. So make sure to stay with WTVA 9 News for the very latest. Live in Choctaw County, Gabe Maynor, WTVA 9 News.
Appreciate that, Gabe. And if you can still hear me here for a second, we'll talk for a moment on kind of planning on where we go from here. I do think we probably need to rotate you kind of back eastward. We can probably come back up Highway 12, drift back up toward Starkville and kind of go from there on where we need to go. We can revisit things once you get to Starkville. I think it's moving fast enough. You're probably not going to catch it before it gets there. So let's kind of head generally back to Starkville. That sound good?
Perfect. That works for me.
Okay, appreciate it. Thank you for everything tonight, as always. That's our meteorologist, Gabe Maynard, was live there in the Ackerman area. Going to pack up and move back towards Starkville following behind this. There's a couple of areas that we're watching and certainly still kind of see that low-hanging cloud right there, representing kind of the shelf cloud, the leading edge of some of those storms. We look out from Davis Wade Stadium and generally in a southerly direction there in Oktibbeha County as that line kind of moves in. Looking at the wind mode and storm track Doppler radar, it's the portion here that's in far eastern this would be Winston County. That is probably the most impressive part of that entire line. There are a couple of spots there along that we'll watch. I'm going to track the whole line toward the north and east at about 50 miles per hour. And that'll give us some additional times here. I think this one might require another tornado warning, or another warning at least for this would be Noxubee County, perhaps Lowndes County in the next few minutes. Still watching this zone pretty closely. At least some strong straight line winds causing sporadic power outages moving toward the east and northeast. And there's some times on your screen. And there's that new tornado warning we were anticipating for Noxubee County. We will get a time on that here in just a moment. But the tornado warning now issued for Noxubee County because of this line and the way it's kind of moving toward the east. National Weather Service in Jackson going with that there. And so let's slide southward on this, double check what would be moving into Noxubee County from, say, Nanawaya and locations such as that. And let's look for Nanawaya there and what we have. Still broad, still a long ways away from that radar site. Let's see if we can look from Jackson, if it has anything better. Now, I will say, close to Nanawaya there, that is at least a little bit of rotation starting to pick up on that. It's been pretty persistent. It's not super strong. But that's in an area to be watched near Nanawai. Let's get a storm track on that. Let's put it right along 397. And let's track that toward Macon. And so we show the Handle community at about 8:38. Doppler radar indicated rotation in effect for you and locations around you as this moves toward the north and east, speed at about 50 miles per hour. So again, defining what we're looking at here, this is, as it thankfully has been most of the evening, rotation and not confirmed debris. And hopefully that continues to be the case. But there still remains questions whether or not that will be the case. John, we'll see if the storm chasers can put that video from Vaden.
Yeah, I'm checking to see whose video it is. First of all,
Okay.
we'll just make sure we can use it.
That it came from James, so we can
James,
we
it
can use
comes from
So
James
go,
itself.
Yeah, so
Okay.
go ahead and
Okay,
take
I've
it
got
from
it.
their chat and dump it in
I've
our
got
chat.
it. Then I can just upload it. I've already got it ready. Hang on.
Let's go ahead. On ABC, we can probably go in and out of coverage. But if we need to jump back in full time, we will, because we're thankfully at a point here where there's a lot of maybes and possiblies and not 100% sure. So for ABC, we'll send it back to the game. We'll come in and out in the commercial breaks there as necessary. As we clear this off for a moment, do have a new report coming in from Calhoun County from Sheriff Greg Paulin up there. And again, that's the thunderstorm that prompted a tornado warning a little bit ago that did include Calhoun, Pontotoc, and Chickasaw County that has prompted this warning that now says rotation detected on it. The video from Sheriff Paulin looks like it's pretty much just heavy rainfall, stuff of that nature. And thankfully, and this is always an important report, no reports of damage coming in related to that as well. So hopefully that's a good sign. Appreciate him for watching us there as well. But luckily, no reports of damage coming in from Calhoun County, where we've probably had our most significant rotation tonight. Knock on wood, that will be the case with the rest of these storms as well as they move in. So as of now, 8:40, almost 8:41, we're watching a severe thunderstorm warning issued in the last few minutes here that includes rotation detected with it, stretching from Randolph to Buckhorn to Holka through Thorne, north and west of the Houston community in Chickasaw County. So as we track this forward to 50 miles per hour, we'd be showing Blue Springs about 9:04. So again, within about the next 25 minutes for you in Blue Springs, working its way through Chihuahua there at about 8:56, Pontotoc 8:53, Algoma 8:49, and of course over top of Holka and Pinnell within the next 3 minutes. So let's make sure we are in a safer location if possible. You can see new update there, and that's going to take away some of the time, unfortunately, on some of those spots. So, of course, over top of Holka right now, as we talked about a moment ago there, Pontotoc 8:48. So we've sliced off some time there because of the update on how quickly this is moving through some of those locations. So this is a Doppler radar indicated rotation. Thankfully, not a full-blown tornado warning. As we look north on that line, we have not spent a lot of time looking on it. We're not real convinced the atmosphere is going to support tornado development this far north. There's some jagged areas to watch here. I think most of that's probably elevated. We're going to want to look more closely at that line again in the future just to double check that. Okay, so let's look there's a lot of different cameras that we can tap into here at this point. Let's look out in the Tupelo area. There's a couple of shots we can look at. I-22, I guess this would be here kind of on the west side of Tupelo there. You can kind of see that west shot there, west-facing shot. Some of the low clouds coming in as the line of storms approaches. There's going to be a lot of twisty-looking stuff up there. Luckily, this storm is below severe limits at this point. The winds aloft are kicking up, but notice that number there, that dew point is a little bit lower. That's a good thing. That has limited the intensity on the north side of this. We talked earlier about would early storms cut off the flow of most impressive moisture to this point. That has happened for the far northern extent of the WTVA 9 News viewing area, and hopefully continues to be the case. But certainly going to have to watch these. I-22 in particular is an important road to mention here for a second, because the angle at which this will hit I-22 the whole way through is it's going to kind of hit it from the side. So it's going to make cars, high-profile vehicles, trucks like that one you saw along the side of the road a moment ago there, it's going to make them more prone to be hit by whatever wind it has, 40, 50, 60 mile per hour winds, and knocked off the road. So we have to watch some of those roads for that potential this evening. Let's go south. Look at this line, very intense there, moving into Starkville. We revisit that Adeton camera here for a moment. Obviously in the thick of the heavy rainfall at this point in time, quite a bit of lightning showing up, almost nonstop lightning out of this camera here. I'm going to pull off of the current video for just a second and look at the time lapse for just the last few minutes here to kind of check and see if we saw anything as it kind of moved into the area. So you can see there's where it is as it's approaching, and then now we're into the heaviest of it. So just kind of, when it hits it pretty good. And so that's clearly what's happened there. So a lot of lightning, heavy rainfalls. We checked the camera in Starkville. We'll look right now. You can see a lot of lightning with that. Quite a few spots there in Starkville we could check. I'm going to see if we can pull up here kind of the south-facing camera around Blackjack. A lot of heavy rainfall. Actually, let's go to the west side of town on Starkville, kind of by the bypass there. And both these shots, a lot of heavy rainfall. So looking at the rainfall on this, I would say kind of on the latest there, that's probably 40 mile per hour winds, maybe 50 mile per hour winds. What would you say, John? I don't know if 50 is quite, just kind of looking at those rain bands, but a lot of heavy rainfall obviously moving in the Starkville. We showed you Blackjack wasn't there yet. West side of town definitely is. Could cause some sporadic wind damage. Definitely moving the camera around quite a bit there. So as we check kind of our other camera in Starkville on Davis Wade Stadium, kind of waiting for that. I'll leave that in the corner here in a smaller perspective here in a moment, just so we can kind of have that up while we wait for that line to come into town. Certainly a lot of heavy rainfall with that. So let's look at the wind potential, because obviously that is the concern, and the tornado potential. I'm watching here closer to Oktok along Oktok Road. And again, this has been the question all night. What is occurring down close to the surface that we're not picking up farther away from the radar site? And so there are little areas of rotation in here as well that might not be showing up on the higher scans. This little appendage right there, approaching Oktok Road, that is an area of circulation to definitely be monitored on this thunderstorm. We should have, I need to make sure this camera's updating. Give me a second to just kind of look for something. I don't know that that camera is presently updating. Look at that. We might have a stuck image. I think we might have a stuck image on that, unfortunately, because that'd be a good camera to have right now. So looking right there, let's get a track on that towards Sessoms and Mayhew. While technically, Artesia, you're not under the tornado warning here, we definitely need to be watching this closely, because I think we've had, and this is part of the reason why the Weather Service has issued the kind of warnings they have tonight, we have had these little areas of circulation that weren't evident at a mile up, that are a lot more evident at half a mile up, or quarter of a mile up, which the farther we get away from the radar site, we look higher because, of course, the Earth is spherical, and so that beam goes higher and higher. So recommend you getting to a sturdy structure here, eastern Oktibbeha County, I mean all of Oktibbeha County, but also northwestern Lowndes County. Mayhew, we show you at 8:58, looking there toward the Curtis Chapel at 8:54, Blackjack School at 8:51. I know not all these things are still in business, for lack of a better way to put it, but they are things that hopefully you recognize as landmarks around the area. Certainly watching this very closely. Eventually West Point High School in the path of this as well. That's why you are under a tornado warning up in West Point at this moment and time as well. I'm going to check out our, give that Starkville camera one more look. Nope, that's definitely locked up. So we are done with that one for the night. Let's see if Adeton, we're probably back in it a little too far. Non-stop lightning with that one as well. So definitely a very heavy, strong thunderstorm as it's moving there. Let's check the intersection of, let's go back there to Starkville. I mean, as you can see, definitely. So back on the west side, 25 and 12, is that what you're looking at? Yeah, I mean, it's the top one there looking kind of north. That typically looks north. Let's see if that's kind of the angle. Yeah, a lot of heavy rainfall, but I will say it's not just the complete sheets of rainfall. So, I mean, a lot of lightning on this. We're on the backside of the storm. I would say on the west side of Starkville, any tornado threat we're past at this point, thankfully, with the heaviest rainfall kind of moving through downtown at this point. The emergency manager there, Kristen Campanella, just kind of monitoring things, just says heavy rainfall and strong winds. We'll find out more information from her and the folks there in Starkville here in a few minutes as we kind of learn a little more information. But definitely, a lot of heavy rain moving through that town and a lot of strong winds associated with that as well. Let's go back here, storm track Doppler radar kind of widen things out, set the scene again on where we're at with this. So Winston County, you have been removed from the tornado warning. At this point, we're in the all clear in Winston County. We haven't done all clears in a while. All clear Winston, all clear western half of Oktibbeha County, really everything west of Starkville, all clear Calhoun, all clear Webster, and Choctaw, Attala, Montgomery, Grenada, Yalobusha, Lafayette, all clear for all of those folks as far as severe weather is concerned. Let's come down here to Noxubee County for a moment and check the wind on this. As we look a little closer, do not show anything that's obvious, but as we looked at up there in Oktibbeha County, there's probably some things going on closer to the surface that aren't as evident. So that could cause at least some spotty damage. I don't know that we're talking about strong tornadoes at this point out of this line. I think that's probably a little too far, but definitely some little hail, some strong winds, and brief tornadoes a possibility out of this line as it moves closer to Macon. We show Macon at 9 o'clock if it continues at about that 50 miles per hour that these have tended to move this evening. As we slide up this line, severe thunderstorm warning issued for locations there in Lowndes County by the National Weather Service in Jackson, kind of including basically all locations in Lowndes County with that severe thunderstorm warning. As this storm kind of moves into those areas there. Let's look at the storm track kind of along this entire area there toward the north and east, kind of toward Columbus. As you can see, moving its way there toward Artesia. We show 8:53. Current time is 8:50, so within 3 minutes. West Point, 9 o'clock. Columbus, 9:11. Strong straight line winds, perhaps some areas where there's rotation that could potentially produce a tornado at some point in the future. Luckily at this point, not something I can guarantee, though. As I'm looking on the northeast side there of Starkville, let's see if we can, and I hear Craig Ford behind the scenes in my ear going to the exact same spot, one of the exact same spots I'm going to look, because this is where that rotation is right now, kind of on the northeast side of town. I'm going to check both cameras here. A lot of wind on that. And I'm not going to see a whole lot because I don't have a great sky perspective. You can see it's even on the camera here, just blowing the raindrops on the camera, despite the fact I'm looking the opposite way there. So that's probably at least 60 mile per hour winds, maybe 65 mile per hour winds on this, on an area of strengthening rotation on the northeast side of Starkville. In fact, right there is where we're looking at Clayton Village on the northeast side of Starkville. This is going to be the 45 alternate and US 82 interchange. This is an area of strengthening circulation here on the northeast side of town that could potentially be a tornado in the development phases. So this is one to really, really watch here, because we were watching just slightly farther south on this line. This is kind of wrapped up a bit more, and I don't know that I have a great angle on this. We're going to need to do the wider one. I wish I could be nice and close and show you that good tight track. I don't think that's the wisest choice right now, because I'm going to try to throw on as much as we can. So Osborne, we show at 8:55 for you. This is moving in the direction there of West Point. So let's make sure West Point is in that track. If it's going to give me, are we going to get it on there? Am I just missing West Point on my angle? Let's get a moment here. For whatever reason, West Point's not wanting to pop on there. I'm just not seeing it on the list. But we show West Point. We're going to change tracks. We have to have West Point in this track. You're the next populated city in the path of this. So West Point we show 9:04 for you. So within the next 10 minutes, an area of increasing circulation and strength, the rotation that could cause at least wind damage moving toward West Point. So we're watching it very closely for you as it moves in. Let's go back to the wind mode on Storm Track Doppler radar. And that is a strengthening circulation, could potentially be a tornado in the development phases here near 182 and 82, where those intersect kind of on the east side of Starkville. A lot of times, a lot of folks get off of, I guess I typically get off of US 82 at one of the spots there pretty close by. So that's where this is continuing to increase in rotation. We're going to go up a couple scans on this, see if there's something more evident above the surface. But this rotation is definitely increasing in the last 3 or 4 minutes. And we are on the latest data at the lowest scan. Okay. In saying that, though, I show it just south of Tibby Road there. Just north of US 82, an area of increasing circulation. Looking at the debris mode here on Storm Track Doppler radar, I cannot confirm tornado debris at this time, thankfully. But this is one to really watch because this area where you see it kind of looks like a bicep, you know, however you wanted to define that there. I have an inflow channel where inflow air can get around and wrap in there. This typically produces brief tornadoes in this situation. And sometimes produces slightly longer-lived tornadoes. Hopefully that is not where this is going, but it is a possibility on this. So certainly if you are out here in Muldrow, you do live in kind of the West Point area, frankly, this is heading toward you. So let's define what we're looking at here. This is Doppler radar indicated rotation that could develop into a tornado very soon, could already have one wrapping up as we speak. By the time it shows up on radar, it's already occurred. If we're confirming it, it's already occurred. There's nothing preparatory about that. So if you live in Muldrow, and if I widen this a little bit more, have to have West Point on your screen. We need to be telling folks there in West Point to get to their tornado safe place. This storm, this circulation is moving toward you and will be moving into town. We show 9:03. We're now to 9 to 8 minutes, somewhere in that realm of 9 to 8 minutes into town as it moves in from the south and west. Let's stay on ABC here for a minute. We have an area of circulation that is continuing, so we're not going to go back to the football game on ABC for a few minutes here, okay? So, area of increasing rotation. Well, hopefully I cursed it into not happening because that looks like that has improved a little bit for us, but rotation increasing for locations in northeastern Oktibbeha County. That's where this is right there. Let's put on our circle where we have that increased rotation near kind of the Osborne community in Muldrow in the northeast corner of Oktibbeha County, an area of strong rotation that hopefully does not take that next step and produce a tornado. It does look like in the last few moments it has broadened just a little bit. That is exactly what we want to see, because if you go back a couple of scans, pretty tight, and now a little bit broader, so good. That kind of lends a couple things. First off, that tells us to the shorter nature of the circulations. That's not to say we didn't have something that fully developed, but that is to say that certainly that's an area to continue to be watched, and certainly very, very heavy rainfall with that. So for the folks in the back room, if we need to go back to ABC, we can when we need to. Let's look down this line, Artesia, Penns, Crawford, and farther south, just to make sure there's nothing else there that's spinning up along that. I'm going to just kind of track the whole batch here at 50 toward the northeast. We show Macon at 8:58. We show Sugarlock at 9:02. We're looking at Columbus at 9:10. So we're, about 14 minutes or so away from that, making it to Midtown Columbus there. Lynn Estates kind of on the edge of town there at about 9:15. New Hope 9:16. And then eventually Pickensville is across in Alabama about 9:27. So better part of around 30 minutes or so for some of those folks there. As we go up this line and pull off our tornado safety rules for a moment, kind of assess what else we have. A few other bends in this line, not a lot of reports of damage or anything along it, thankfully. Let's look at Troy, because that is one of those S bends where it bends back. That's not to say this isn't producing some spotty damage as it approaches Tupelo. We'll watch that. A couple shots we'll look at with that. We're going to look on the south side of town out of our camera with the North Mississippi Storm Chasers and Spotters as we kind of wait for that to load here for a moment. That has, let's see here, I might have, there we are. So really kind of bobbing around a little bit. We'll see if we can get a lightning strike here in just a moment to kind of illuminate what's coming with that. Does not have near the amount of lightning we had in Oktibbeha County, right, where it was just nonstop. That's one of the signs when you have a lesser quantity of lightning that there's a less turbulent atmosphere and less likely to be the same kind of surface-based tornado-producing thunderstorms that we have down south. So that's one of the good signs that maybe this isn't as strong farther north. If I'm having to wait that long for lightning, that's a really good sign. Let's go ahead. We're going to look on this here, and yeah, Cameron, Tupelo also. I could barely, for just a second there, see the base of this, so we'll have a much better opportunity to get a look at this here in a few minutes. John, we might swing the camera just slightly more. Actually, this is fairly west. That's actually probably a good angle, maybe just a little bit south of west.
Okay.
But that should be pretty close on that. Appreciate that. Let's go back here to the West Point area as that storm continues to kind of move in for you. Still our strongest area of circulation at this time. Still an area that could be producing sporadic damage, may even potentially be producing a tornado. It does not look as impressive on the wind mode, but again, this is just a tool. Reality sometimes shows different story. The fact I still have, you can see how that's kind of looped up there. The brightest red loops in an area where wind could get in there. A couple of little spots near tibias, another one of those along this leading edge where that's a possibility. Let's check our camera there on the south side of West Point. We have a couple different cameras there in West Point. Unfortunately, most of these point toward the north. But you can grasp, but luckily there's not a lot of folks on the road. But note the difference in the quantity of lightning. Lightning strike there, maybe I just caught it at the right time, but quite a few more lightning flashes there in the background as well. A sign that the atmosphere is a little bit more structured for a bad weather down here in the West Point area. I'm going to kind of look. The only south-facing camera I really have in town is at the intersection of 45 alternate and 50, but it doesn't typically have a big southward view, so I'd have to look way at the top of the screen there, see if I could see a little bit of the sky. Unfortunately, I don't have a good one, but a lot of lightning. So as anticipated, still a fairly rough storm moving through that area there. Folks in Oktibbeha County, as this storm came through, according to the emergency manager there in Oktibbeha County, tree down on Highway 389 near Starkville and power outages in central Starkville due to a line down near Lindley. No structural damage reports or anything like that at this point. So thankfully, a good sign there that is honestly one of the stronger storms that we have had, and that we have not had anything worse than that with it. So that's a very good sign. Hopefully one that does continue. Give me a moment. I'm going to look at some of those power outages here in just a moment as I pull those up. So this coming from poweroutage.us. It looks like my thing disconnected, so give me just a second for that to reconnect as we kind of view some of those power outages. And let's get kind of the track here. Okay, if you want to pull that up there, you can see Calhoun County with kind of the greater percentage. The color goes back to the percentage as opposed to necessarily the numbers. Not a lot of folks track there in Calhoun County. So as you can see, about 800 or so in Grenada County, about 198 in Montgomery County, about 300 in Webster, and down in Attala, about 1,600. So certainly a greater number farther south. And thankfully, that's as bad as it is to this point. So hopefully that continues to be the case. Back here on Storm Track Doppler radar, I had gotten this Storm Track ready just a second ago, but our latest data had come in, and certainly the strongest wind is kind of moving into West Point now. There's a track as that kind of moves through. We'll check the camera there on the south side as it's moving through. Yeah, you can definitely see there's the heavy rainfall's getting there. We might actually be better off hitting downtown in just a second. I would say, looking at this, that's probably still 45, maybe 45, 50 mile per hour winds. You can see going right across there. There was a gust probably to 60 a second ago. So strong wind gusts moving through West Point with this severe thunderstorm. There's rotation with it. There's a variety of directions. Had some more southwest, now a little bit more west on those wind directions there as that moves into the West Point area. Still watching rotation with this. As I come to downtown, we don't have quite as wide an area to have the visibility, but I'm going to look back west for a moment, kind of into this heavy precipitation as it's moving through. Again, strong winds with this as it kind of moves into and through the West Point area. You are under a tornado warning, and you should be in a safe place. Luckily, there have not been a lot of folks on the roadways. Part of that's the time of night. Part of that's hopefully people doing the right thing and staying in this situation and trying to stay safe during this tornado warning. As far as the tornado warning goes, for those folks in West Point, 9:30. It's in effect for you until then. 9:02 is the current times. We're just past the top of the hour. I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Lawpon alongside our meteorologist John DeLusick as of 9:02, and we're watching a tornado warning that does continue for sections of Oktibbeha County and Clay County. If you live in Oktibbeha County, you can come out of that tornado safe place. We are past any issues for you. You are in good shape. We are watching Clay County closely with an area where we've had a bunch of little spinny sort of spots. Not a technical term, but a way to say there's lots of little areas where there are little interactions, and thankfully none of these screams tornado. But but we're entering a time period now where the strong winds aloft can sometimes do weird things and overcome the lack of instability, and the stronger winds aloft are kind of picking up. That's why you have all these little edges where those are kind of causing these indentations in the line and causing extra bits of rotation with it as well. So I don't think we're done with this, and certainly as that moves into Monroe County, we're going to be watching very closely for you in Aberdeen and Amory and Greenwood Springs and Smithville as this kind of moves in. Let's get a track that includes pretty much all of those folks on this for a moment. And so as we track that in from the southwest and northeast at 50 miles per hour or so, you can see some times there, kind of advanced heads up. We're looking at Malden there at 9:05. We're looking at Derka at 9:13. Hamilton at about 9:20. Smithville 9:30. Aberdeen I showed 9:16, and it does not look like Amory's on that list, but it should be. For whatever reason, my radar has decided not to show Amory, so I'm going to shrink it down here. We're going to get Amory on that list. We show 9:21 for you in Amory. That puts it less than 20 minutes, probably close to 15 minutes. There's already some rain coming in. What's coming down now, nothing to worry about. And honestly, the strongest portion of this probably stays south of you. But certainly something to be monitored and watched closely as we check out that wind mode. Now here's the thing, weird things are happening. And coming down here into Clay County, near the Stephen community, on Highway 50, between that and this would be 45 there, US 45, 45 alternate, Highway 50 east out of West Point there, fairly open for a lot of this drive, but there's an area there where the rotation's kind of picking up along a little spot there and showing up a little more brightly. Now that could just be straight line winds. If I were just looking at the straight line wind input from this, that shows 85 mile per hour winds input toward the radar. So one of two things, that's either 85 mile per hour winds, or that could be some rotation trying to spin up as well. So that is what we're watching there, tracking toward the Columbus Air Force Base. I know we have folks that might not live here a long period of time that are at the Air Force Base there in Columbus. Time frame for you, we show 9:11, current time is 9:05. This is probably damaging wind, could be some hail, and could potentially be an area of rotation that, if it were to get more organized, could try to produce a tornado. We'll see. That remains to be seen. But this is a time frame, again, where we talked about what would be the peak time. We're still at the peak time for this severe weather event. As we look down through Lowndes County, most of this does not look as well organized, though some strong gusty winds inbound toward the radar. All this is inbound toward the radar, and these are some winds aloft showing up. So I know there's some brighter greens there. That's just, we're picking up some of the winds aloft. And as we look down here toward our tornado warning, it does include Noxubee County. To be quite frank, there's spots where maybe something would happen for seconds. But honestly, I don't really see a whole lot along this line that's overly concerning. I want to bring in our meteorologist, John DeLusick, on that for just a moment here. And again, as we've said, complete honesty here, there's stuff that we can potentially miss because we're looking too high on this. But the radar on Noxubee County does not look particularly impressive.
No, I mean, basically, like you said, it depends upon the angle of view that you're getting and everything. And indeed, we're going to be looking at, again, not as impressive like Matt says. And certainly that's good news. I mean, we don't need impressive on a night like this. And let me just mention, we have gotten some of those reports also from the Baden wind damage from earlier this afternoon or this evening now. And also, we're looking at, I believe there was a report from the Oktibbeha County. I believe Kristen Campanella, the EMA director there, said that there's power outages there and some downed trees, but all in all, that's all that's being reported. So that's pretty good news when you just have downed trees and power outages. I mean, it could be much worse, right?
Absolutely, it could be a lot worse. So hopefully that continues to be the worst that we see. Let's track this line here, about 50 miles per hour toward the east, hopefully. See, the thing is we have these individual storms merging with us, and sometimes, we've talked about this a lot, we get these cell mergers, something weird happens. So watching one of those cell mergers occurring up here closer to Brooksville, I don't know that that's the kind of cell merger that would really do it. The angle's not quite right, but let's go ahead and track it ahead nonetheless. So movement on this has been close to around 50 miles per hour. So let's get it all the way to Aliceville and Reform. And so you can see some times there as it works eastward toward around the Cliftonville area at 9:11, McLeod at 9:09, Calix there at 9:08. Bigby Valley by 9:18, Binsville at 9:15, and eventually Dancy 9:23, and Pickensville close to about 9:23 as it eventually gets toward Carrollton at 9:36. Rotation, somewhat brief tornado possible if it gets more organized. I'd say it's more straight line wind than anything else at this point here. As we come back up here to Clay County, the emergency manager down there in Clay County is continuing to monitor this and mention some power outages being reported there. No damage reports so far. But what you'll also notice here, the area that we were watching a moment ago, National Weather Service there in Memphis issuing a tornado warning that does include locations such as Aberdeen. I believe Amory is included in that as well. As you can see there, until 10 p.m. So this is a tornado warning in effect for Monroe County, much of the heart of Monroe County until 10 p.m. tonight for Doppler radar indicated rotation that could potentially lead to the development of a tornado. So I'm going to track along this line here. And this is going to, the first one here, I'm going to include Amory, and I'm going to slide it south, make sure we catch Hamilton in just a second. But we show Derrickett there at 9:11. We're at 9:15 for Aberdeen. We're at 9:23 for Becker. We're at Smithville at 9:32 on kind of the north end of this. Parham at 9:36, Sipsey Fork at 9:38, and Splunge at 9:38. And to make sure we have Hamilton in there, Hamilton, Mississippi, I'm going to adjust this south. Some of the other times might change a little bit. Main reason I adjusted this, and if the time changed, I would go with the first time. But Hamilton, we're looking at 9:18 for you. Tornado warning in effect until 10 p.m. based on Doppler radar indicated rotation. Let's go and poke and prod this a little bit more closely. We are now close enough to the radar site to see a bunch of things. First off, there are probably 2 or 3 areas up there with a little bit of rotation, a little bit of stronger rotation. You're strong here to Vinton is really the part we're going to have to watch the most closely, and I need to look closer what we have there closer to the Columbus Air Force Base with this. And we're going to go to the single direction, what we call straight line winds or base velocity. I say radar centered on there. And so we can see pure inbound winds toward the radar. And so showing over 70 mile per hour inbound winds at more than one spot along this line. And so that is definitely damaging winds with this moving in. Now, does it produce a tornado? Maybe. Aberdeen's at the top of your screen there, just behind where it says the time. So watching, of course, for you as the next location in the path. And, of course, watching in Amory, as we always are. Our camera with North Mississippi Storm Chasers and Spotters, obviously showing things, getting more organized there. But at this point, still waiting on this storm to move into the Amory area. As we kind of check out our time lapse over the last half hour or so, you'll note that things obviously remain rather cloudy, rather low clouds, off and on rainfall. I don't see anything that, super grabs my attention on that at this moment. Nothing I think makes us to where we need to linger on that too terribly long. But we'll be watching that as it comes to Amory to have a better idea of what this is capable of. But from Strong to Binford to Vinton there, it's at least some strong straight line winds. And honestly, the fact that I have bright there and it's the way it is, that's the wrong angle for this to be a tornado. This is straight line winds moving toward Derrickett and Lackey. And then this area there that's kind of a little more rotation near the Columbus Air Force Base that also could be just primarily 65, 75 mile per hour winds going over the Air Force Base right now on the north side of Columbus. Let's check out our camera there in Columbus, and we will look on kind of the north side of town, see if we can have a shot there that we can kind of see. This is near Blue Cut Road. Obviously, the rainfall picking up there, so definitely get into that one. Okay, and when our Avery Hilliard is available, we'll go ahead and bring her in and up. I don't know if I've talked to Gabe in a while. I know he was rotating into Starkville. He can check out Starkville if he sees something. Kind of go through the northeast side of town along 182 and then kind of rotate north from there as we kind of generally bring him back this direction. But a lot of heavy rainfall there going through Columbus at this point. Let's check the camera that we have along 45 there. 45 and 82, of course, near nonstop lightning with that as bands of rain moving in. Not quite as impressive at this spot here as it was in West Point, though certainly some power disruptions probable out of that as it kind of kicks through there. And luckily not a lot of folks on the roadway at this time. Let's go wide for a moment, kind of check things out along this whole kind of section of the line here. Make sure we're evaluating, not missing anything. And let's kind of look up north here, because obviously I hear things getting loud at the television station, so I just want to make sure we're good there for a moment. And it does look like we are farther north, just some heavy rainfall with this. Let's look here a little closer. You see, this was the portion I think went through Calhoun County earlier, and there's still a little bend to this. So there's clearly rotation, but I don't think that rotation is anywhere near producing a tornado. But there's some weak circulation in that section of this line, for sure. But nothing that's overly impressive. And certainly it's more impressive down here in southern Monroe County, right there near Richard Lake Road, east of 45 and the split with 373, west of the split of 373 and 45 there in Monroe County is where our area is most interesting. We're going to have to watch this. Again, we talked about those winds aloft, and now we have cell mergers going on here as this moves toward Hamilton and Lackey and locations down here in southeastern Monroe County. You also, Craig, might see if we could have a conversation with Chelsea if we need to at some point here. Our Monroe County Bureau checking in there. Our meteorologist Chelsea Simmons kind of checking on her and see how they're doing down there. Okay, well, let's go ahead and look at those power outages real quickly here as we see what those are coming in with. And so you'll note Lowndes County, we're now up to 950 customers. Oktibbeha County, a little more than 1,000. Winston County, about 3,000 customers. So that number has gone up substantially from where it was a little earlier on. So power outages do continue to increase in and around the Golden Triangle region at this time. But we're concentrating primarily on Monroe County at this moment. That is where we have a severe thunderstorm capable of producing 70-mile-per-hour winds that could potentially be producing or trying to produce a tornado. Moving into Hamilton, damaging winds with this in Hamilton as we speak, continuing to produce some rotation as well. I'm at the one direction radar centered wind. When you look at kind of what we call storm relative velocity and kind of tweak the angle a little bit, there's a spot there we're watching, and that spot is actually heading a little bit more north at this moment. But this is our area of greatest concern. Certainly heavy rainfall, strong winds moving into the Aberdeen area as we speak right now. Less likely to produce a tornado out of this part of that line. And John, we'll go ahead and we'll mute John's. You don't need to mute it. We'll have them mute your mic back there here. Okay, we'll get a track on this first here, and then we'll kind of work our way down the line for a moment. So let's get a track on this. So we show Deerfield at 9:21, Westville at 9:27. So Westville at 9:27 there in Monroe County. So that gives those folks down there about 11 minutes as this area of increasing circulation kind of rolls toward them. As I put on basically everything that I could put on, let's just kind of check and see what that comes up with, and if you see a few other folks. So I recommend we take those tornado safety rules seriously. If you live down here in Monroe County, it's going to be primarily east of Aberdeen, primarily southeast, hopefully, of Amory as it kind of moves through. Let's check in with our Avery Hilliard down in Columbus as that storm's kind of moved through there. We've talked with her a couple times this evening. She has been kind of monitoring things from a safe location down there. Avery, what are you seeing as of 9:16 this evening?
County School District Career and Technology Center. Now behind me, it is coming down. It's very windy out here. It might be a little dark because we're under a little shelter thing, but you just saw lightning. The wind is blowing, and again, it's making that sideways rain, but it is coming down right now. Again, this is a place where people are coming for shelter. Try to talk to a few. They want to talk to us, but that's okay. They're here and they're safe, but more people are coming in as we speak. But the rain is coming down. I know earlier I said it was calm. Right now it's not that calm because the wind is really just making the rain go sideways, and it was really going really hard to where we had to almost walk in the building and not give you all this live shot. But I'm glad I'm showing you all this because we have some lightning right now. So if you are out driving and you're listening to us, you probably want to pull over and just get under somewhere for some shelter. We want everyone to be safe. That's why we're currently here at a shelter as well, because we want to be safe as well. But make sure you stay tuned to WTVA 9 News as we bring you all the latest updates on this severe weather. Live in Columbus, Avery Hilliard, WTVA 9 News.
Appreciate that. Our Avery Hilliard there at the Lowndes County Career and Technical Center there in the Columbus area. The worst through Columbus at this point, moving towards Steens and Caledonia. Some spots, of course, it is anytime one of these lines does this weird bend back, leans back like this. That's where we get, concerned that there's some spots in there that traditionally we have to watch pretty closely. And so that's definitely what we're doing right now. And in particular, looking up into Monroe County. I'm just going to look up the line, make sure nothing else up there looks a little weird. Baldwin, before we kind of zero in on Monroe County again, let's look here. Now that might seem like out of the blue. There's just a couple little areas, broad rotation, but nothing too terribly strong. But enough that we'll have to go back and look back at it in about 5 minutes just to make sure that nothing has changed. Okay, so looking at the wind here, again, so where you see Kerr-McGee Drive there, south of Lackey, this is 45 there, US 45, and that's Hamilton. This is pretty close to Hamilton, moving toward Lackey, an area of a relatively tight circulation. I can't say it's for sure a tornado, but that's certainly an area of concern. Let's go ahead and circle it for you. We're looking in Monroe County at this potentially developing tornado. And I would say, looking at the precipitation mode, we need to be a little farther ahead than that. If you do know some folks, I'm going to put on basically everything we can. 50 miles per hour, same speed here that we're going with this. But if you do know some folks kind of live ahead of this, you might remind them that or let them know it's probably a good time to be making their way to that tornado safe place. Down here in Monroe County, they definitely need to be there. So we're looking at Church of God there, close to the Hamilton area at about 9:22. Deerfield 9:22, of course, current time is just about 9:20. The West Chapel Church of Christ at 9:28, Quincy about 9:32, and a few other locations such as the Splunge Baptist Church, Rocky Springs Baptist Church, and Trinity Baptist Church, all in the path of this storm, and the potential that could try to produce a tornado as it moves toward the north and east. And certainly, I don't think we can say we can confirm one at this point, thankfully, but an area that we'll have to watch. Also watching down here east of that, closer to Caledonia, in the far southeast corner of Monroe County, northeast corner of Lowndes County. We have a cell merger going on where we have another storm kind of coming in. I don't think that's going to be enough to kick up a tornado out of this, but certainly a zone that we're going to have to watch. Thankfully, I don't think that's going to be strong enough for that. With that in mind, as we look southward, I would say that our tornado threat is all but over in Noxubee County. Macon, you're in the all clear. Columbus proper is in the all clear, such as our Avery Hilliard a moment ago there. And I would say if you live in Noxubee County, the far eastern extent of Noxubee County, you are under a tornado warning. If you can give me 10 minutes, give me 10 minutes, your threat is done for the night, and you can come out of that tornado safe place and disengage from whatever it is that we're doing here. But as we come back up here to Monroe County, I do want to get a look, because I do have the storm moving into Amory pretty much as we speak, and there is just a little wobble in this line there. So I'm going to pull up our Amory camera there with the North Mississippi Storm Chasers and Spotters as I kind of pull up off that safe place information there. This camera on kind of the south side of town, generally speaking, and as you can see, still the low clouds coming in, the camera definitely moving around. Here's one of the concerns, is that dew point is up a little higher. We talked about that wedge of moisture where just enough moisture means a greater amount of instability. That's why we're going to have to watch this closely. That moisture value is higher than most, sitting at 66 there. It's kind of the exception to the rule, but certainly watching this very, very closely here. So that could be a situation where we have to monitor that closely. Going back to Storm Track Doppler radar, a number of areas where we do have some wind interactions here and some rotation along this line. I don't know that it's going to produce a tornado. We have been very fortunate that I have not seen very obvious signs of tornado damage tonight. As you've heard, we've had a number of reports of certainly power outages have been one of the issues that we have had this evening. And so we appreciate everybody for sharing that information with us. Looking at the wind mode here and then back at the precipitation mode, I would say that luckily it does look as though that has weakened a little bit. And it does look as though National Weather Service there in Memphis has gone ahead and suspended the tornado warning for Monroe County because of that. I think they're seeing the same thing we are here, that general somewhat weakening trend on that, especially southern section of it. Let's go ahead and track the leading edge of that toward the northeast speed, where it has been at about 50 miles per hour. We show Becker at 922, Deerfield 924, Quincy 930, Gatman 935, Turon 939, and Pine Springs about 942, Splunge at just about 942. Doppler radar indicated strong wind and some broad rotation there. Some reports of some power disruptions there in and around Monroe County related to this. And when this thunderstorm was back in the Starkville area, a shot here, of course, of that you sent in. Appreciate, let me double check the name on this here. Shannon sending in this shot here when it was going through the Starkville area of obviously the heavy rainfall that a lot of us have seen. You always worry about this. This would not qualify as a sturdy structure, any sort of awning like that. It's easy for the wind to get up and pull it off. And luckily, Shannon was in good shape there. Of course, you can share your pictures with us at Facebook, Twitter, weatherwtva.com, all good ways that you can do that. And another thing that we can look at here for a moment is, I'm going to pull it up on my computer here from poweroutage.us, some of the power outages that we do have around the region, and showing up in Winston County, about 40% of customers out there, about 3,000. I think that's the same number we had a little bit ago. Octepejah County, about 7% of customers out at this instant, about 1,000 folks there. In Clay County, about 700 people without power, and in Lowndes County, about 1,100 people without power, or customers without power. Number of people is a larger number than that. But watching this closely for some of those folks there, we've already kind of addressed Montgomery and some of these other counties. It looks like similar numbers there, 190 power outages there in Montgomery County. Tala County, about 1,700 outages, and about 15, again, not a lot of folks tracked up there in Calhoun County, 400 customers in Webster County, and then right at 877 customers without power in Grenada County. Appreciate all those linemen and women, those folks on power crews that have to go out and try to put this all back together, get those numbers down. They work a really hard job when it comes to this, and so if you ever end up seeing those trucks, let those folks know that you appreciate what they do. Strong winds moving through Amory, moving through the eastern portion of Monroe County, but I don't think I necessarily have anything that looks like a tornado on that. And I would say this looks more like another little spot there near Patterson Road, right on the Mississippi-Alabama state line, east of Caledonia, south of Alabama Highway 18, another area of kind of increasing circulation. And I don't know if it's going to produce a tornado, but near Malloy, we show that at 931 for you. Moscow 944, 945, Solent and Cruz at about 948 there. That has gotten a little more organized. And that's what tends to happen with this, is this area back here becomes a little more disorganized, and then you start watching the leading edge there, and then the precipitation kind of catches up, and it's a whole thing. But looking south, I referenced this a minute ago. I think we're about out of this if you're down here in Noxubee County, which would be our last tornado warning that we do have in Noxubee County. We do show that approaching the Alabama state line. We do show the winds on this continuing to kind of push this line toward the east. And so as soon as this crosses out of Noxubee County there, we can come out of that tornado safe place. I want to bring in our meteorologist, John DeLusick, here for a moment as he has been monitoring your reports, whether it's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and what you have sent in from around the region. John, what are you seeing right now as of 9:26?
Nothing much really happening out there. I mean, in the ways of damage and stuff like that. Down trees, down power lines, power outages, as Matt has shown you. So overall, I mean, this event, which was expected to be an outrageously big-time event, I mean, especially across central sections of Mississippi and Alabama with some possible big-time tornadic activity in our neck of the woods, we've been very lucky so far, and it looks like we are going to end up being lucky unless something outrageous happens over western sections of Alabama here in the next 15, 30 minutes. So all in all, again, down trees, down power lines, and maybe a few houses. I've not heard of anything in our area. I know around the Vaden area, I think it was, over into more or less the Jackson area, there were some houses that were hit by trees falling, or limbs falling, stuff like that. But overall, we've fared pretty well, Matt.
You absolutely have. We've been very, very lucky. Appreciate that, John. You saw it kind of behind John a second ago there. A storage building flipped over. This coming in from the Starkville area, about 182 in Clayton Village, which we were talking about where we had a little area of rotation. This just as easily could have been straight line winds. This is an example of these kind of outbuildings like that, where when they're not on a solid foundation, bolted down, wind can get under, it can flip them over. And it's the same issue. You have any kind of structure that's not built on site with those specialized clips and everything on this. So certainly watching this, we'll have to see what exactly that was, but no guarantees that that was officially a tornado. We do have a new tornado warning that's been issued for that area we were looking at in Caledonia a moment ago. National Weather Service there in Birmingham has gone ahead and issued a tornado warning south of Malloy in particular, where we're looking at that same circulation from a moment ago that now we show on the doorstep of Malloy. There are really a couple areas along this line. I could argue right at the bottom of your screen, another spot there that's getting a little bit more organized. So, and we'll have to look a little closer what we have going on, because that one near Malloy. But then this is also doing something, but it's not as well organized and a little closer to the radar, and this might end up being elevated. That might be what we have going on there, where we're now looking below the rotation. So that would be optimal in this situation, but not optimal is what we have there near Malloy. One of the stronger, tighter circulations we've had tonight, just south of Alabama Highway 18, approaching Vernon. So we need to, for folks in the back room, be on ABC now as well as NBC for the next little bit here, because this one has spiked up quite a bit. And let's double check for debris on this. I cannot at this moment confirm tornado debris. We're going to look. Well, let's just double check here. I don't think that I have enough there. I'm going to make it go to the ultra sensitive mode for a moment. Double check. I don't think that lines up right yet. Precipitation, well. Okay, so right what we have in the center there. Okay. So as we look at the wind mode, I don't know that we're on the latest scan on wind. Now we are, and that's basically the same spot, and that's basically where we'd have that. It's not impossible. I have tornado debris that I can confirm just southeast of Malloy, west of Vernon, by no more than about 6 or 7 miles. Let's see how far. We have 5 miles west of Vernon and less than 6 minutes until it gets close to town. I have a tornado that has touched down, in all likelihood, near Malloy, along or just south, about a few hundred yards south of Alabama Highway 18. I think we can probably confirm tornado debris on this, at least brief tornado out of this storm. Let's look south, make sure that one has not done something similar. There's nothing I can confirm on that one. Thankfully, that circulation is not as present, but this one up north is. So we have a tornado possibly in progress as we speak, north of County Road 34 in Lamar County, Alabama. A tornado warning that I think we can now say is a confirmed tornado touchdown based on some of the latest data, where you see that that little splotch of blue there. That's likely right there matching up, and in the middle of that precipitation, probably, can't guarantee it, but I think it's probably a tornado that's at least briefly touched down, a little spin up here on this storm. So with that in mind, new update on positioning coming in. We'll have new data on that in a moment. We've now crossed north of Alabama Highway 18 near McNeese Crossing Road on the west side of Vernon in the western portion of Lamar County, Alabama. Let's check there in our chat with the National Weather Service over there. They have not confirmed it as of yet. We should have new data on the wind coming in momentarily. And it does look like the debris mode has updated. And let's see if I can make an argument that that has shown basically a spot. See, I could have potentially had it right there as well. Let's check the wind mode for that scan. Yes. Yes. We briefly had a tornado touchdown here south of Malloy. So that tornado, when we started talking about it, and this is the issue with these, with precise tornado warnings tonight, and I think the reason Jackson was going with more blanket tornado warnings, by the time the warning gets out, this is probably already touched down right there. So I don't think I can confirm debris on that scan, but I think the next one there, that's tornado debris right where the arrow was. That's there. And now that area of circulation is up north of Alabama Highway 18. And will probably pass through the far northwest side of Vernon. I would place my latest location now based on the current data up here, kind of west of Springfield Road, but not by much, east of McNeese Cross Road, north of Alabama Highway 18, south of Aberdeen Road. We're pretty close on that position, but maybe just a little slow. So right there, kind of on the northwest side of Vernon. So this is no more, rather than minutes, look at the miles, no more than 3 miles from downtown Vernon, and no more than 1 mile from the northwest side of Vernon. An area of rotation that's probably been at least a brief tornado touchdown and could potentially still be producing some wind damage and possibly could be still a tornado at this moment as it moves toward the north and east. So let's track that on a slightly longer track. We're going to kind of give it everything we can. And then I need to double check the other spots along this line. We'll take it all the way to Beaverton there. You can see some times on your screen. Probably had a brief tornado touchdown with this in the last 5 minutes or so. We need to find our way to a sturdy structure, a lowest floor of a sturdy structure, a small windowless room where we can wrap up in blankets, pillows, put on a helmet to protect ourselves from debris, and stay there until we can give you the all clear. And we do think that we probably briefly had debris detected on radar just a little bit ago. Hard to say. It was a light return, that's for sure. So, with that in mind, let's come back here to the wind mode. Let's look along this line. And I don't know that our wind mode is as up to date as I wish it were. Watching up here close to Sipsey and locations there. Let's clear this off for a moment. Clear everything off. Let's go a little wider. So I would say Amory, obviously Amory, Aberdeen, Caledonia, we're all clear at this point here. Everybody Lowndes County, Mississippi, all clear. Everybody Lee County, and everything west of US 45 is clear at this point. We're in the good shape. No more issues there. Same thing as you can see, Noxubee County has been cleared. Still watching for Pickens County. Some areas of strong wind there, but obviously our main concern is going to be this section up here and on the northwest side of Vernon, stretching closer to Haitagi. And as we kind of look at the wind there, yeah, I'd still say it's this part northwest of Vernon that causes my greatest amount of concern at this moment here. And then also watching kind of a little north of that as well. So I do believe, again, defining what we have seen here, Doppler radar has indicated rotation. That's why the tornado warning was issued. I think we may have briefly had a very weak tornado debris signature a little bit ago. I don't know that that's something that, I don't think that is something that is consistent. I think it might have been on there for really only a scan or two. That's a good sign. That means, because it didn't get super bright, that we hopefully did not have a strong tornado out of this. Okay, our meteorologist Gabe Maynard is going to head that way. It's going to be dark, and he's going to need to, once he crosses out of Caledonia on Highway 18 in Alabama, he's going to have to probably get off on County Road 34 to kind of have anything. And honestly, I don't know if he's going to really see much. So we'll probably want to check with the emergency manager out there to double check. I don't know that that would have been a lot of damage. Hopefully not. Luckily, that did not look like a strong tornado. Let's just be clear on that. To reset here for a moment, it's 9:35. I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Lawpon alongside our meteorologist John DeLusick as we're watching a line of severe thunderstorms that has largely exited Mississippi. We still have some of these storms up here in Itawamba County, and we've yet to see the worst make it into parts of Tishomingo County, but we do not anticipate probably having anything that is severe or as far north as Tishomingo County. I'm going to try, we have a radar out of Florence, and it might be a little too attenuated to have a good angle at this, but I just want to give it a try. Let's see here. Give me just a moment as we populate that in here, and it looks like our data, we don't have a good look at that, so we'll go back to regular radar on that. So let's kick it back to regular storm track Doppler radar. The reason I was going to check is even though we're really close to the radar, we're looking kind of right through the rain, and so sometimes that doesn't always give us the best of looks. A few spots in there. There's this one spot near Sipsey Trail here where this kind of wraps back around south of Sipsey Fork, north of Gatman, north of Highway 278. where there's still just a little bit of rotation in there. It's super close to the radar, so sometimes, believe it or not, it can be harder to see things when you're that close to the radar. But we've kind of had the intersection of an area of sustained rotation from the south, kind of another shift of wind from that direction. We'll have to see. I don't show that as anything at this point, but we're going to have to revisit that here in a moment to double check. Our previously rotating part of this thunderstorm now, I would say, along Alabama Highway 17 between Vernon and Solingen along White Oak Lane south of Moscow. Going to move north of County Road 36 in Lamar County, Alabama. We'll circle it here for you. This is not as strong as it was. And looking at that a few different ways, it is still there. There's still rotation showing up there. I think our position's probably a little slow, probably closer to there. But Doppler radar still showing some strong straight line winds with this for sure, and perhaps an area of circulation. We do not have damage. They're showing up, thankfully, as well. At least not on the latest scan. But a long arching bow echo is kind of the main story. Well advertised in a lot of our projections and running a little faster than advertised, which is always good. Get it out of here more quickly. But yeah, this whole line along there, all the way south to Aliceville, some 50 to 60 mile per hour winds possible, and at times maybe 70 mile per hour winds a possibility out of that section there as it moves toward the northeast. We'll come back here to Monroe County for a moment. National Weather Service there in Memphis using the phrase rotation detected, or tornado possible on the description on this one. And the reason, I believe, is probably that little interaction we're looking at near Sipsey Fork. They're probably seeing that as well, though it does not look as pronounced this scan. Hopefully that's a sign that things are a little disconnected. But rotation there, still watching. And I'll track, let's put a track on that. We can do that. Again, this is not a tornado warning for Monroe County. I'll say that maybe that works toward Detroit. We put 9:48 time to Detroit, but Center Point Church at 9:40. Current time is 9:39, so pretty close to over top of that at this moment here. We'll watch this pretty closely near Sipsey Trail in the Sipsey Fork area and Sipsey Detroit Road, where we're watching on the far eastern and north, really more eastern sections of Monroe County. Not a highly populated area, but one that we'll need to watch. And it does look as though still showing that area of at least some rotation now north of White Oak Lane, south and east of Moscow, south and east of Solingen. If you're in Solingen, I think you're in good shape from that. I'm not particularly concerned for you. And I would say Vernon, we can probably come out of that tornado safe place if you live anywhere west of 17. East of 17 just kind of depends. Sometimes you get Vernon addresses, you get addresses way out here in the county, so I don't want to say for sure, but if you live to the west of 17, you're in good shape. East of 17 just depends on how far east. We'll wait for about another 10 minutes there. I think most of those Vernon addresses, we're going to be in good shape. We'll be in the clear from this. Let's look at the wind here, a couple different ways, a couple different angles. I think we're in pretty good shape along that portion of the line. Looking down here toward Reform and Carrollton through Pickens County, I don't see anything down here that I'm overly concerned with. Thankfully, I'm going to change this over to the site out of Birmingham, if you give me a moment, just to kind of poke it from that angle. And just to make sure that I don't have something that's a little more obvious from there. There are a few spots, looking at Birmingham, a little more obvious that there's just little bits of rotation. Still looking pretty high up on this, but little areas there. I think that's part of the reason why they're still considering the potential for strong winds, and then maybe something else. But yeah, looking all the way from Birmingham, that looks a little more powerful there, and just kind of a look, still showing it east of Solingen. So this is a shot a lot higher up. And that's actually illuminating quite a bit for me, because now we're looking higher up. There's a more impressive rotation up there east of Solingen higher up that when we come down to the lowest radar site is a little less impressive. Still some rotation there, but it's not fully translating the surface. So good sign. Hopefully that continues to be the case. I'm going to check in with our meteorologist, John DeLusick here. You've been kind of monitoring things, what people have been sending in at this point here. I know there hasn't been a ton of stuff, but what have you been looking at as of 9:42?
Not much really happening. Basically, we've gotten in touch with the folks at the EMA over in the...
Let's go ahead and turn your mic back on, John, if we could, please.
There we go. Now,
there we go.
Again, we've gotten in touch with the folks at the EMA over in the western section of Alabama and Lamar County. So far, we have not heard back from them, so hopefully that's good news that we haven't heard anything from there. Basically, beyond that, everything right now, no reports of anybody online showing any pictures of it. More or less, when you get a lot of these in-shelter photos, you're doing in pretty good business, I guess. So where a lot of folks are listening, a lot of folks taking shelter, and again, when you're not seeing any damage reports here in East Mississippi or western sections of Alabama. Last time I really saw anything bad was, again, over western sections of Mississippi. Beyond that, it's only been some like down trees and down power lines in the Starkville area, also in Lafayette County. So all in all, we're doing pretty well.
Absolutely, appreciate that. And Natalie sending in this picture here from the West Point area. Obviously not a sturdy structure, but something that the wind moved around and kind of knocked down. Not shocking, that happens just on a windy day. Appreciate Natalie for sharing that. And I believe we have another picture here coming in from a pair of pictures coming in from our Chelsea Simmons there in Monroe County. Some limbs down. Meteorologist Chelsea Simmons with this here. Tag barely missed the car and truck. Thankfully, it does not look like a huge limb from this angle. I'll have to see if I can get a different angle on it there, but definitely something to be watched. Hey, John, can you real quick take a look at the power outage stuff real quick?
Okay.
We'll take a look at the power outage stuff here for a moment to kind of check and see if we've seen any improvement on that there.
Okay.
And we'll pop it up for you, and we'll leave your microphone up on that for just a moment here while I check out something behind the scenes.
Alrighty, sounds good.
So there we are, and so we'll see if you put, and I don't know if you can pull up the power outages.
I can pull them up, I guess, on. I'm trying to remember the website.
No. They'll pull it up for you here in just a second.
They'll pull it up for me. Okay, that's cool. Well, I guess. Okay, there it is. Let me while I'm I can't see that far because I'll have to step out of the way. Here, actually, I'll just step over here and say, hey, okay, you can see the power outages happening right there in Winston County area. There are basically 67 people out. Okay, that was 3,080 people in Winston County. Okay, as we check out some of the other counties, you've got 1,069 people without power in the Oktibbeha County area. And as we check out going up north, as we go toward Webster County, notice 402 people out of power there. And as we go farther east into Lowndes County, notice 952 people without power there. So some counties are seeing some pretty major power outages. I do believe Calhoun County. Let's just check out Calhoun County and see how bad that is. Well, actually, we're going to Winston. That's 3,080. The other orange one as you go up north. Well, okay. Well, that county right there, you're looking at Tala at 1,802. But I do believe, again, Calhoun County, the orange county up there north of Webster County. I guess we'll check that out. Well, I guess we'll not, but I guess Atala at 1,802 outages. So again, you got Montgomery there at 198, and as we check out Grenada, 877 folks without power there. And as we go farther south, Leake County, 1,376 people without power there. And look at all these folks down in southwestern sections of Mississippi. My goodness, they were hit pretty hard with the gusty winds and tornadoes. Several thousand out without power there, like 7,251 in Adams County. And as you work your way up across portions of southwest Mississippi, Claiborne County, 2,695 people, and Copiah County, 5,926 folks. So all in all, that's some pretty big-time power outages happening over portions of Mississippi. And I wouldn't be surprised now that Alabama will be seeing some power outages the way things are getting pretty gusty over there, Matt.
Absolutely right. I mean, it's been very good at producing power outages. I mean, be clear, this is the best case scenario on the way things could have gone for us this evening. I think those earlier thunderstorms sapped a lot of the instability. That's not to say we're completely out of the woods. We still have a few folks here in Lamar County that we are still watching. Some what is primarily broad areas of rotation. but a few spots there that certainly are there's just enough there that we got to keep kind of monitoring it a little bit here as the rotation continues east of Detroit, north of Beaverton, and just pretty much right at the Henson Springs area, trying to move into Marion County. In saying that, I do have one spot here right where that arrow is pointing north of Beaverton, where this area of circulation has kind of picked up in the last few minutes. It's a little more evident on this. National Weather Service now just noting the same thing coming in the last moment, that has just started to pick up a little bit more, and we could be working our way toward another brief tornado touchdown as it moves northeast. We're tracking pretty close to US 278. Let's go ahead and go back a scan or two. Actually, I have that tracking a little north of that. Let's put on everything we can, track it up this direction, and we'll kind of poke and prod it a little bit more. So we show Lamarion Wildlife Management Area at 9:49, so within the next minute or so. The Pikeville Country Club at 9:53, and the Pleasant Grove Baptist Church at just before 10 o'clock. If it continues this angle, again, not the most populated portion of the viewing area, but an area of circulation definitely increasing in intensity in the last couple of minutes there. We should see an update to the wind mode here in just a moment that will give us kind of a better angle of this. But definitely increasing a little bit. We probably need to be in that tornado safe place. If you live near Beaverton up here in Military Road,